Chapter 1155. Under normal circumstances, immortal king cultivators definitely did not have the qualifications to fight against ancient great cultivators. Back then, when Ancestor Enmo fought against the eyeball monster, countless immortal emperors were killed by Ancestor Enmo. Even the leaders of the four demonic sect and the true dragon clan were no match for him. Ning Fan knew very well that he was not a match for the bull-horned muscular man. However, it was absolutely impossible for him to ignore the death of the fate-severing sword and act as if nothing had happened. He couldn't suffer losses for nothing. A loyal servant cannot die in vain. Cross Halo, activate. Freeze. Seeing that the bull-horned burly man was going to attack again after breaking the fate-severing sword with a single punch, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He suddenly activated the cross-shaped halos and the entire top of the pagoda was engulfed by it. Ink seals flew, black light flashed. Unlike those foreign race experts, the bull-horned man didn't have the East pacifying talisman that could restrain the heaven sealing technique. As such, he was directly immobilized on the spot by the cross-shaped halo. A look of surprise appeared on his face. Ning Fan, on the other hand, seized the opportunity to snatch the broken sword that had fallen to the ground. Then, he retreated at the top of the narrow tower while staring at the bull-horned burly man with fear. If he did not sense wrongly, his cross-shaped halo was not enough to stop this person. With the broken sword in his hand, Ning Fan's brows suddenly twitched as if he had sensed something strange from the broken sword. Then, his expression became a little strange. What kind of halo is this? It actually fused with the East demonic ancestor's sky sealing technique? Interesting, but unfortunately, you chose the wrong person. If the East demonic ancestor used it himself, he might be able to stop me for a while. However, with your weak cultivation, it would be difficult for you to stop me for even an instant. Don't show off your insignificant skills. Heavenly Bull Skin Pattern, Space Pattern. The bull-horned man chuckled coldly as he struggled violently, instantly freeing himself from the heaven sealing technique. Once again, he used the spatial skin marks of the heavenly bull, trying to pull Ning Fan to his front and launch a heavy punch at him. Golden flames burst out from Ning Fan's true body. His eyes flashed with green light. All of a sudden, the bull-horned burly man's action of activating the heavenly bull spatial skin mark became extremely slow in Ning Fan's eyes. Every movement and every detail became clear to him. Hiss hiss hiss. The invisible spatial suction force produced a hissing sound. In an instant, Ning Fan was once again sucked away from his original spot, making him unable to break free. Die! Ants! Boom! The bull-horned burly man's face was filled with disdain. He threw a punch in front of him. This was the third time he threw a punch at Ning Fan. He was confident that he could kill Ning Fan with this punch. But he hit nothing but air. There was no one in front of him. Ning Fan, who was supposed to be sucked to the front of his spatial skin mark, was nowhere to be seen. He did not get sucked to the front to get beaten up. Chi! The space behind the bull-horned burly man was suddenly torn apart. Ning Fan's true body of golden flames rushed out from it. Each of his hands was holding a broken sword fragment of the fate-severing sword. Both of them stabbed at the bull-horned burly man's back. He had vaguely seen through some of the laws of the heavenly oxen's skin patterns, which allowed him to break this technique. Not only did he not get sucked to the front of the bull-horned man, but he also used this technique to move to the back of the bull-horned man and launch a sneak attack. This was the moment when the bull-horned man's attack missed and revealed a flaw. This was a perfect sneak attack that could not be dodged. Heavenly Bull Hide Pattern, Escape Armor Pattern. The bull-horned burly man's face darkened. He was infuriated by Ning Fan's location. He did not expect that Ning Fan could actually break his spatial skin mark with just his Immortal King Realm cultivation base. Almost instinctively, he activated the hidden armor skin mark that could enhance the defense of his physical body, attempting to directly resist Ning Fan's slash with his back. How confident! The fact that Ning Fan was able to break his spatial skin marks with his Immortal King Realm cultivation base had indeed surprised him. Unfortunately, the threat level of Ning Fan's sneak attack and the slash of the broken sword was too low. He did not put them in his eyes at all. After all, even if the fate-severing sword was in perfect condition, it wouldn't give him any sense of danger. The offensive power of the fate-severing sword could only be considered as ordinary among first-level mid-grade innate experts. It was already not easy for it to injure an ancient great cultivator. Besides, the sword was already destroyed now. The power of the broken sword was less than 1%. It was even more impossible for Ning Fan to injure him with this sword. Moreover, he had also activated the hidden armor skin pattern to strengthen his physical defense. Under such circumstances, if his physical body is still pierced by Ning Fan with a mere broken sword, that would really be hilarious. Pucci. It was the sound of the broken sword piercing through his skin and flesh. The bull-horned burly man's expression changed drastically. As soon as he felt the pain on his back, he felt a great sense of danger. His body flashed and he directly retreated 100 zhang away. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough. His back was only pierced a little bit by the broken sword. The wound was not too deep and the injury was almost non-existent. Even so, a drop of cold sweat still trickled down the bull-horned burly man's forehead. When he looked at Ning Fan again, his eyes were filled with fear. His body's instincts told him that if he did not dodge in time just now, he would have been killed by Ning Fan's sword. Even if he was an ancient great cultivator, he would not be able to withstand the destructive power of Ning Fan's broken sword. He could not understand it. The fate-severing sword that was in perfect condition obviously did not have the ability to injure him. Why was it able to break his defense so easily even though its power was less than 1% after it was broken? Under the bull-horned burly man's widened eyes, the sword intent of the broken sword in Ning Fan's hand dispersed. Primordial white lotus flowers that were pure and glowed faintly appeared around Ning Fan's body while carrying mist. Hiss! It's actually the sword intent lotus. Impossible. How is it possible for an immortal king to cultivate such a legendary ancient sword intent? The bull-horned burly man's expression changed drastically. The sword intent lotus was a supreme sword intent that only third-step sword cultivators in the legends could cultivate. Once the lotus sword is activated, a sage will die. It was incomparably powerful. How could Ning Fan, a mere doomsday immortal king, understand such an ancient sword intent? How could he use it? No wonder he was easily wounded by the broken sword. A sword intent that could even kill a sage was certainly more than enough to kill an ancient great cultivator like him. Despicable. You purposely made me break your sword in an attempt to make me look down on this sword and let my guard down. Then, you used the supreme sword intent in the broken sword to ambush me, catching me off guard. What a great scheme. What a great scheme. If it wasn't for my cautiousness, I might really have been killed by your sword. How hateful. The bull-horned burly man cursed. As he was cursing, he instinctively retreated as if he did not dare to get too close to Ning Fan's lotus sword intent. Moreover, he did not dare to absorb Ning Fan's spatial skin marks recklessly anymore. What if Ning Fan used the power of the spatial skin marks to fly to his side and ambush him with the supreme sword intent? Ning Fan, who was criticized as despicable by an ancient great cultivator as if he was facing a formidable enemy, felt very innocent. In fact, Ning Fan himself also did not know that the fate-severing sword actually contained a trace of ancient sword intent that took the form of a lotus. Before this, he did not know that the sword intent could give birth to a lotus or not. It was only after the sword was broken that he realized the uniqueness of this sword. This lotus sword intent contained the power of a third-step sword cultivator. Because the sword cultivator who forged this sword had deliberately restricted it, this hidden lotus sword intent would only be able to see the light of day when the fate-severing sword is broken. It was not the sword intent that was left in the sword by an ancient sword cultivator unintentionally. Instead, it was the sword intent that the ancient sword cultivator purposely nurtured. That's right. Something like sword intent could be nurtured. Rumor has it that every ancient sword cultivator was an expert in forging swords. What these ancient sword cultivators loved to do all their lives was to nurture their swords. Those who were bloodthirsty would use the lives of the common people to nurture their swords, while those who were crazy would even use their own lives to nurture their swords. Of course, there were also some sword cultivators who did not like killing, who used the method of forging sword embryos to nurture their sword intent. The true identity of the fate-severing sword was not a killing weapon but a sword embryo. The purpose of its existence was to act as a carrier to nurture the ancient sword intent called sword intent lotus. When the sword intent inside it matured, the sword would choose to destroy itself on its own to release the matured ancient sword intent inside it, protecting its master on its own. Stop joking. This sword does not have much affection for Ning Fan. How is it possible for it to protect its master on its own? It's just impossible just by thinking about it. It just wants to find a suitable place to destroy itself and release the matured ancient sword intent inside it to complete its mission. Even if an ordinary person wants to destroy a mid-grade innate magic treasure, it would not be an easy task. As an ancient great cultivator, the bull-horned burly man had the ability to do it easily. That was why the fate-severing sword would sacrifice itself to fulfill its mission. It was indeed very loyal. For its first master who forged it, it could sacrifice its life to release the ancient sword intent inside its body. However, the person it was loyal to had nothing to do with Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan's anger because of the sword's death was completely self-willed. Ning Fan's expression did not show it, but he was rather speechless inwardly. When he sensed the sword intent inside the fate-severing sword, he vaguely guessed the truth. To think that he was touched by the sword's loyalty to protect its master and planned to risk his life to fight an ancient great cultivator for the sake of this sword. It turned out that he was overthinking. The bull-horned burly man kept his guard up against Ning Fan as if he was facing a formidable enemy. With his great eyesight, he gradually realized that the sword intent of the third step that Ning Fan used was not something that he personally comprehended. Instead, it was something that was hidden inside the fate-severing sword. So, it's a sword embryo. No wonder the broken sword is stronger than the undamaged sword. So that's how it is. The bull-horned burly man understood the key point, but he still did not dare to be careless when facing Ning Fan. He could tell that the lotus sword intent contained in the fate-severing sword was not much. In fact, he had made a big fuss over a minor issue just now. The amount of sword intent that Ning Fan possessed was definitely not enough to kill him. However, there were still many chances for Ning Fan to injure his foundation. It took him a long time to wake up. His chi was already weak in the first place and he was eager to eat to replenish his strength. How could he be willing to let Ning Fan injure his foundation at this critical moment? In that case, even though Ning Fan did not possess a lot of lotus sword intent, he was also unwilling to continue fighting Ning Fan. After weighing the pros and cons, rumble, the entire sealed tower suddenly began to shake violently. It was Sovereign Jin Heng and the others who were outside attacking the sealed tower in an attempt to save Ning Fan. The bull-horned burly man's originally gloomy expression suddenly turned cheerful. He burst into laughter and said to Ning Fan, "Good. Good. Good. Since you are able to injure me a little with your immortal king body, you have the right to continue living. Do you feel the shaking of the sealed tower? Those companions of yours seem to be anxiously waiting outside the tower to save you. They are really a group of reliable companions. Young man, you are really not bad. I admire you very much. I won't kill you today. Just leave." The bull-horned burly man spoke with a tone that seemed to say, "I'm being merciful today," or, "You can leave," or, "Young man, I have high hopes for you." Ning Fan's expression was strange. He looked at the bull-horned burly man and was rendered speechless by his shamelessness. This man was obviously afraid of the lotus sword intent of the broken fate-severing sword, but he actually said that he was being merciful today. His skin was really thick. In fact, Ning Fan did not mind making peace with this bull-horned burly man. He did not want to fight to the death with such an expert in the first place. The reason why he was angry just now was just because his fate-severing sword was destroyed and because he was touched. Unfortunately, that touch was just his imagination. He did not seem to have any reason to fight the bull-horned burly man anymore. The lotus sword intent was an unexpected gain. It was also very powerful. However, the amount of sword intent was obviously not enough to kill ancient great cultivators. Even if he used it to kill a second-level quasi-saint, it was still not enough. Since he could not kill this bull-horned burly man with a single strike, Ning Fan naturally did not plan to use up all the lotus sword intent that he obtained unexpectedly. Without enough benefits, why would he use up the precious lotus sword intent? These were the spoils of war that he exchanged for losing the fate-severing sword. The sealed tower shook violently. It was the evidence that Emperor Jin Hung and the others were rushing to save him outside. It made Ning Fan feel a little warm. The feeling of having companions to fight monsters with seems to be really good, even though those companions are very weak. However, he did not plan to leave just yet. In fact, when he had the ability to break the suction force of the skin marks in the heavenly bull space, he already had the ability to ignore the bull-horned burly man's pursuit and escape from this place alone. Even though he was not a match for the bull-horned burly man, after familiarizing himself with his skin marks, the bull-horned burly man would not be able to stop him if he wanted to leave. Moreover, he had also accidentally obtained a lotus sword intent which could be used to intimidate this ancient great cultivator who was in a weakened state. That's right. This man was afraid of such a large amount of lotus sword intent because he was in a weakened state. If this man returns to his peak state, the lotus sword intent in Ning Fan's hand might not be able to cause serious injuries to his foundation and the deterrence would no longer exist. Young man, I have already decided to let you go. Why aren't you leaving yet? Don't tell me that you still want to stay here and repair the immortal sovereign's seal. I'm warning you that there is no room for negotiation. I have a grudge against the immortal sovereign. Immortal sovereign Zido has deceived me. I will not give you guys the chance to repair the seal. I'm very happy to see those descendants of Ziwei running out of the water domain and chasing after your immortal sovereign Zido. The bull-horned burly man was a little dissatisfied when he saw Ning Fan still not leaving. He snorted coldly. It seemed like this man really had a grudge against immortal sovereign Zido. That was why he was hostile to all the descendants of Zido. However, after witnessing this man's shamelessness and adaptability, Ning Fan faintly felt that he was not a stubborn person. On the contrary, he was a tactful and flexible person. There should be nothing that cannot be discussed when dealing with such a person. Is there really no room for negotiation? Ning Fan looked at the bull-horned burly man meaningfully. After breaking the latter's skin marks, he was no longer afraid of him. When he was talking to him, he also felt much more confident. Humph. It's not really that there is no room for negotiation. How about this? Give me the broken sword in your hand first and I will let you repair the immortal sovereign's seal here. What do you think? The bull-horned burly man suddenly changed the topic and stared at the broken sword in Ning Fan's hand greedily. Senior, are you joking? Ning Fan frowned. This broken sword was one of his trump cards to protect himself when facing the bull-horned burly man. How could he give it to him just like that? He was not an idiot. Humph. You don't have any sincerity at all. If that's the case, there is no room for negotiation about repairing the seal. As long as I'm here, I will definitely not let you repair the seal. Even though the bull-horned burly man said that there was no room for negotiation, his eyes suddenly rolled and he chuckled. It seems like there is still room for negotiation. Ning Fan thought to himself. May I know Senior's name? What kind of grudge do you have against my immortal sovereign Zido cultivator? Ning Fan suddenly asked. I am Niu Man Shan. As for the grudge between me and your immortal sovereign Zido cultivator, why do you have to ask when you already know the answer? As soon as the bull-horned burly man mentioned the grudge in the past, his tone instantly became a little hostile as if he had recalled some unpleasant memories. Chapter 1156. Niu Man Shan. Ning Fan had never heard of this name before. Naturally, he did not know what kind of grudge this person had with immortal sovereign Zido. If Emperor Jin Hung was here, given his understanding of the secrets of the Realm River, he might know the whole story of this matter. Anyway, Ning Fan would not know about it. Outside, the sealed tower was still shaking. This was the proof that Emperor Jin Hung and the others were determined to destroy the sealed tower. Unfortunately, Niu Manshan only needed to wave his hand to strengthen the sealed pagoda's defenses countless times over. He did not plan to give Emperor Jin Hung and the others a chance to break the pagoda. Speaking of the grudges in the past, Niu Manshan could not let it go no matter what. Seeing that Ning Fan really did not know about this matter, his anger subsided a little. With a cold expression, he told Ning Fan what happened in the past in a simplified manner. It was rumored that on the day a certain ancient emperor attained the Tao, the will of the heavens transformed into a sword and sliced off half of his palm, creating the Heavenly Bull race. This was the beginning of the Heavenly Bull race. The Heavenly Bull clan's Heavenly Bull skin pattern was extremely powerful, but for some reason, this clan had never been able to produce a true saint since ancient times. The highest cultivation level was only a quasi-saint. Since ancient times, the powerful warriors of Heavenly Bull tribe had been searching for a way to become a saint. To give birth to a saint, this tribe had served countless saints and Saint Defier, all for the sake of a future. It was a pity that none of the saints or Saint Defier were willing to help this race give birth to a saint. Everyone said that if they wanted to help Heavenly Bull give birth to a saint, they would have to pay a huge price. After a few twists and turns, the clan finally attached themselves to the infamous Celestial Emperor Zido. This was because Celestial Emperor Zido said with certainty that he was willing to pay the price to help the clan give birth to a saint. However, he needed the Celestial Bull clan to wait patiently for him to settle the invaders of Zido's celestial domain. Right now, the Tribulation race is invading the defying mortal sea, and the battle has yet to end. After we defeat the invaders, I will naturally enlighten your Heavenly Bull race to become a saint. This was Immortal Emperor Zido's promise all those years ago. Thus, the Heavenly Bull clan waited patiently until the Purple Do immortal realm was destroyed. In the end, Celestial Emperor Zido died before he could help the tribe give birth to a saint. Countless powerhouses of the Heavenly Bull tribe died in battle to protect the Zido immortal realm. Only a few powerhouses of the Heavenly Bull tribe had been ordered to guard the sealed tower of the Boundary River for Zido Immortal Emperor, so they did not die with the Zido Immortal Realm. The small number of Heavenly Bull clan warriors still abided by the agreement with Immortal Emperor Zido. Their physical bodies turned into the sealed tower to guard the border river, and their true spirits turned into loyal guards to guard the sealed tower and suppress the alien races. Even if the Zido Immortal Domain was destroyed, even if the Zido Immortal Sovereign had fallen, even if countless years had passed, the Heavenly Bull powerhouses still believed that the Zido Immortal Sovereign had not forgotten about them. Perhaps Immortal Emperor Zido had made some kind of arrangement before his death to fulfill his promise back then and help the Heavenly Bull tribe give birth to a saint. But he didn't, all his expectations were only met with disappointment in the end. After 1 billion years, the true spirits of the Heavenly Bull that were guarding the sealed tower in the eastern border river grew old and died. Their immortal lifespans were exhausted and they turned into ashes under the heavenly tribulation. Only the sealed tower formed by their corpses was left to guard the border river forever. Niu Manshan was the last clansman of the Heavenly Bull race. If he also fell, the bloodline of the Heavenly Bull race would be severed from now on. Unlike the other members of the Heavenly Bull race, he did not believe Immortal Sovereign Zido. He did not believe him from the very beginning. He had advised his clansmen countless times to leave the Zido Immortal Domain and return to the territory of the Heavenly Bull race to give up the illusory dream of becoming a saint. However, the members of the Heavenly Bull race refused to listen to him. Thus, he could only watch his clansmen die one after another for a promise that was never to be fulfilled. Is Senior's hatred towards Immortal Sovereign Zido because he did not fulfill his promise in time? Therefore, every time Immortal Sovereign Zido enters this tower with the intention of repairing the seal, you would kill them as revenge? Ning Fan sighed and asked. It could be inferred that Immortal Sovereign Zido did not intentionally deceive the Heavenly Bull race. Under that kind of situation, even Immortal Sovereign Zido himself had fallen. The entire Zido Immortal Domain was destroyed. How could he care about the matter of the Heavenly Bull race becoming a saint? After all, it was Immortal Sovereign Zido who had failed the Heavenly Bull race. Even though Ning Fan could understand Niu Mansion's repeated revenge because of this, he did not dare to agree with him. Humph. Don't think of my heavenly bull race as treacherous villains. The immortal sovereign Zi-Do cultivators who died at the top of the tower were all ancient cultivators who deserved to die or were controlled by the tribulation intent. That year, I had not really made up my mind to betray the Zi-Do immortal domain. Those people who came to the top of the tower were not trying to repair the seal. All of them wanted to tear the seal apart and wreak havoc in the illusionary world. That was why I killed them. It was only in recent years that I became disheartened and made up my mind to break the seal and escape from this place. During the age of Dharma decline, there was no immortal sovereign Zi-Do who had the ability to come down to the realm river to repair the seal. That was why I had never killed any Eastern Heaven cultivators. In the past 100 million years, you are the only Eastern Heaven cultivator who entered this place. You are also the only descendant of Zi-Do who was almost killed by me. Speaking of attacking Ning Fan, Niu Manshan did not feel guilty at all. There was only deep disappointment in his heart, disappointment towards immortal sovereign Zi-Do. Niu Manshan continued to tell the story. He had long wanted to stop abiding by the contract and guard the realm river for immortal sovereign Zi-Do. Immortal sovereign Zi-Do's seal not only sealed the foreign races in the realm river but also the true spirits of the heavenly bull race like Niu Manshan. They would never be able to leave the sealed tower for the rest of their lives unless the immortal sovereign's seal is destroyed. In the past, Niu Manshan only managed to escape from the sealed tower once under the premise that the immortal sovereign's seal was not destroyed. It was exactly because Niu Manshan walked out of the sealed tower that the entire Heavenly Shadow clan was annihilated. All of them died in his hands. Unfortunately, Niu Manshan was in an extremely weak state when he just walked out of the sealed tower. Then, he was besieged by the group of demi-saints of the foreign races including blood god Gung Wu. Even though Niu Manshan was brave enough to kill several demi-saints of the Heavenly Shadow clan and severely injure blood god Gung Wu, those demi-saints of the foreign races still took the opportunity to severely injure him and destroy the sealed tower. The sealed tower was formed from Niu Manshan's physical body. It was the foundation of his body. As soon as the tower was destroyed, Niu Manshan's true spirit was implicated and vanished into thin air. This kind of disappearance did not mean that he was dead. Instead, he was in a deep sleep. If someone could repair the sealed tower, Niu Manshan could still wake up along with the space inside the tower. Niu Manshan did not hide these things from Ning Fan and told him everything. After hearing these stories, Ning Fan sympathized with the Heavenly Bull clan very much. However, sympathy was just sympathy. He would not give up on repairing the immortal sovereign's seal just because of this reason. After saying so much, what do you want in order for Senior to allow me to repair the seal of this place? A straightforward person will not resort to insinuations. If there is really no room for negotiation, Senior will not talk nonsense with me at all. Tell me your conditions. If it is within my capabilities, we can still negotiate. Ning Fan went straight to the point. Fine. Since things have come to this, it would be a little too much for me to act pretentiously. As long as you agree to 3 of my conditions, I will allow you to repair the immortal sovereign seal here. What conditions? First, you need to help me escape from this tower. This Senior is restrained by the immortal sovereign's seal. Unless all the seals are destroyed, you won't be able to escape. It is impossible for me to destroy all the seals in the eastern boundary river and help Senior escape. Forgive me for not being able to agree to this condition. Ning Fan refused. Hee. Who told you that you must destroy all the immortal sovereign seals in order to escape from this place? If that's the case, how did I manage to go out and slaughter the Heavenly Shadow clan before the immortal sovereign seal was completely destroyed? In other words, there is a way to ignore the immortal sovereign seal and escape. Ning Fan was surprised. That's right. However, this method requires me to pay a huge price. If I have your help, the price I have to pay will undoubtedly be reduced by a lot. How about it? Do you agree to this condition? Ning Fan frowned and remained silent. If he could save Niu Manshan without destroying the immortal sovereign's seal, it was not impossible for him to agree to this condition. The problem was, would Niu Manshan seek revenge on Zido after escaping from the sealed tower and the eastern boundary river? Without a doubt, Niu Manshan hated Zido. If he regained his freedom, would he run to the eastern heaven and start a massacre? I know what you are worried about. Next, it is my second condition. I can swear a great oath of Heart Devil that as long as I regain my freedom, I will never seek revenge on Zido's descendants. Of course, a small-scale revenge is still necessary. Once I regain my freedom, I will definitely kill 1 billion Zido's descendants to vent my anger. Do you agree to this condition? Impossible. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He rejected without even thinking. How could he allow Niu Manshan to kill wantonly in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds? 800 million. 800 million should be fine, right? I'm already being very generous by not killing all the descendants of Zido. You should know that my entire Heavenly Bull clan died because of Zido immortal domain. Immortal sovereign Zido has broken his promise. Doesn't he have to pay the price? Niu Manshan said with dissatisfaction, somewhat blaming Ning Fan for not being sensible. It's just the death of 800 million people. What's the big deal? He had already given in. If Ning Fan still doesn't agree, it would mean that he was not giving him face. No. Ning Fan coldly rejected. 600 million. No. 500 million. Not even 1. If you have the intention to take revenge on Zido immortal sovereign after you are rescued, I will definitely not let you go. Ning Fan sneered. Damn it. You don't have any sincerity to negotiate. Let's just forget about this matter. Alright. If that's the case, I will go to the other sealed towers to repair the seals. There are 3 sealed towers on the 6th path. It's not like this place is the only one. However, if that's the case, Senior won't be able to help you get out of here. Moreover, I will even try to stop Senior from getting out of here. How dare you threaten me? You're courting death. Niu Manshan was enraged. He hated being threatened the most. He raised his hand and displayed his spatial skin mark, trying to capture and kill Ning Fan. Ning Fan sneered. Ever since he was very young, he knew that in order to negotiate with someone equally, he must have the same level of strength. The reason why he dared to talk nonsense to Niu Manshan was because he had the ability to do so. Niu Manshan's spatial skin mark sucked in air again. Borrowing the spatial suction force from Niu Manshan, Ning Fan instantly got close to Niu Manshan's back and wielded the fate-severing sword. Damn it! This time, Niu Manshan was more vigilant. He dodged the attack quickly and was not pierced by the fate-severing sword. Even so, cold sweat broke out on his forehead again because he was almost pierced by that lotus sword intent. After that attack, Niu Manshan's anger subsided a little. He gnashed his teeth and glared at Ning Fan. If it wasn't because he could not get rid of Ning Fan, he would definitely skin Ning Fan alive to vent his hatred. Why would he put down his status as an ancient great cultivator to make a deal with Ning Fan, an immortal king? I can agree to Senior's first request. However, I also have a request. After Senior gets out of here, you must stay by my side for 3,000 years. Within 3,000 years, I will plant a restriction on Senior as a form of restraint. After 3,000 years, I will set Senior free. However, Senior must also promise me that you won't kill a single Purple Doe immortal cultivator for the rest of your life. Ning Fan turned around and made a request to Niu Manshan. Impossible. Who do you think I am? How can I listen to you? Not to mention 3,000 years, even 300 years or 30 years won't do. Since that's the case, let's both take a step back. I can promise to help Senior get out of here. However, Senior must promise that you won't kill any Purple Doe immortal cultivator after you regain your freedom. If I can't even agree to this request, I will never let Senior go. Ning Fan knew that it was impossible for Niu Manshan to submit to him. Thus, he made a slight concession. Neo Manshan finally realized that not killing Purple Doe immortal cultivators was Ning Fan's bottom line. He really could not understand Ning Fan. What's wrong with killing a few 100 million people? To a powerful cultivator, it's just a small matter, alright? If it's someone else who comes to negotiate with him, they might not necessarily agree to it. Sacrificing a few 100 million people could repair the immortal sovereign's seal and protect the eastern heavens cultivators that were thousands of times more. No matter how he looked at it, the eastern heaven would benefit. However, Ning Fan refused to do so stubbornly and even did not hesitate to fight him again. Isn't this young man's principle a little too strong? Never mind, I can swear on the Great Heart Demon Oath, and I can even swear on the Great Karma Oath. If you rescue me from this predicament, then I'll absolutely not indiscriminately kill a single descendant of Violet Doe. Of course, if they offend me first, then don't blame me for being in the right and killing them. Humph. There are so many conflicts of interest in the cultivation world. Even if I don't take the initiative, as long as there are benefits to be gained, there will still be descendants of Purple Doe immortal cultivators who don't know what's good for them and seek trouble with me. I will slowly kill these people who don't know what's good for them. One day, I will kill 1 billion people, Great Karma Oath. Ning Fan was surprised. It was his first time hearing about such an oath. This is an oath that has a higher standard than the Great Heart Devil Oath. Even third-step saints have to abide by it. Once I make this oath, I won't violate it no matter what. Don't worry. Neo Manshan explained. By the way, my second request is to kill 1 billion people. Since you don't agree to it, I'll have to make another request. Neo Manshan said again. Sure. About the chaos of the Realm River. Even though I have just awakened, I have gathered some information through some channels. I'm very interested in the chaos of the Realm River this time. I want to go to the Western Heaven after I get out of here and fight against the Buddhas of this generation there. Don't worry. I won't go to the Western Heaven and kill people indiscriminately. There are so many third-step sword intents. Your Lotus Sword intent is just one of them, which is fated with Buddha. How about giving me your broken sword? Ning Fan frowned and pondered for a while. How could Ning Fan not know how precious the Lotus Sword intent in the fate-severing sword was? Since it could be valued so highly by an ancient great cultivator, it was certainly not an ordinary item. Exchanging it for the restoration of the seal was a little too much. However, it was just an external object. Ning Fan was still willing to give it up. No matter what, he would not sit by and watch the people he valued die in the chaos of the Eastern Heaven. I can agree to this. Oh. You're really generous to agree to such a request. Neo Manshan was full of smiles. He raised his hand, wanting to take the fate-severing sword from Ning Fan's hand. Not now. I'll restore the seal first and then I'll give you the broken sword. Ning Fan avoided Neo Manshan's large hand and said indifferently. How troublesome. Who do you think I am? Do you think I will go back on my words after taking your treasure? I've already made a Great Karma Oath. Neo Manshan said discontentedly. Your Great Karma Oath only includes not killing the innocent. It didn't say that you will definitely let me restore the immortal sovereign's seal. I'll only give it to you after I'm done with it. Ning Fan said cautiously. He kept the fate-severing sword. At the same time, he secretly kept a tiny bit of sword intent. The tiny bit of sword intent that was kept was not enough for him to kill people. However, it was still possible for him to use it to gain enlightenment. Even though Ning Fan had decided to give up this item, he was also interested in the Lotus Sword intent. Thus, he decided to keep a trace of it to study it slowly. You're really petty. Fine. Next, it's my third request. I need a son to inherit the bloodline of my Heavenly Bull clan. Can you agree to this? Inherit the bloodline? Ning Fan frowned. To mortals, it was very easy to have a son. They just needed to give birth to more children. Even if they were infertile, it was not impossible to cure them. However, to cultivators, it was definitely not easy to have a son. The higher one's cultivation base was, the harder it would be to have a child. The stronger the bloodline, the harder it would be. The bloodline of the Heavenly Bull clan was naturally extremely strong. Moreover, Nyo Man-shan was an ancient great cultivator who had almost lost the ability to give birth to descendants. Unless he had the help of the sacrificial vessel of the Heavenly Bull clan or he found another secret method to give birth to a child, don't worry. My Heavenly Bull clan is very indifferent towards the matter of having a foster son. I'm not looking for a biological son. I just want to find a foster son who is compatible with the cultivation method of the Heavenly Bull clan and pass the bloodline to him. The bloodline of the Heavenly Bull clan cannot end in my hands. You have to agree to this. If it's just looking for a foster son, it's not difficult. If that's the case, then you can be my son. Nyo Man-shan looked at Ning Fan with an expression that said, "You're going to make a huge profit, brat," or "Hurry up and agree." Ning Fan was speechless. He already had a father and a mother. Why would he want another foster father? I have parents. That won't do. My Heavenly Bull clan has a rule. We can't accept a foster son whose parents are still alive. No way. You don't have the right to be my son. When your parents are dead, you can come and find me. Nyo Man-shan said to Ning Fan with a look of disdain. Ning Fan's face immediately darkened. Does this Nyo Man-shan know how to speak like a human? Your parents are the ones who are dead. Humph. My parents have already died. Moreover, they died fighting for the Z-Do immortal domain. Even 13 of my foster sons died in the battle. Damn it. Damn it. Nyo Man-shan gritted his teeth in hatred when he thought of this. He wished he could kill every single member of the Z-Do immortal domain. However, he was also struggling with the matter of taking revenge on the Z-Do immortal domain. So many members of the clan had died protecting the Z-Do immortal domain. Would he really be willing to destroy the world that the members of the Heavenly Bull clan had risked their lives to protect? Ning Fan was very doubtful. From the beginning, he could vaguely see that Nyo Man-shan was not telling the truth and was struggling with his inner thoughts. Otherwise, he would definitely not waste time talking nonsense with this person. If this person could be loyal to the Z-Do immortal domain, it would undoubtedly increase the combat power of the Z-Do immortal domain by 1 level after he is freed. Of course, if this person is released without any restrictions, he might also become a great calamity in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. Ning Fan still needed to work hard to balance out the restrictions. Your Heavenly Bull clan is really a loyal clan. Ning Fan said with a sigh. Ning Fan's words were sincere and it made Nyo Man-shan feel very comfortable. It was one thing that he did not like the Z-Do immortal domain, but he was still very happy to hear others praising his clan members. I originally wanted to adopt you as my son. Unfortunately, you don't meet the requirements. How about this? I'll change my 3rd request. After I'm freed, you must promise to help me find a few sons. I won't ask you to help me for free. I'll give you some benefits every time you find a son. What do you think? Alright. Ning Fan was calculating. Among the geniuses under him, many of them seemed to have lost their parents. If Old Wu and the others were to be Nyo Man-shan's sons, he did not know if they would reject him. Since they had already reached an agreement, Nyo Man-shan reiterated the agreement and made a double oath of Heart's Devil and Karma with Ning Fan. After that, Nyo Man-shan took the initiative to help Ning Fan repair the Immortal Sovereign Seal. However, he did not allow Ning Fan to repair all the seals at once. Instead, he left some of them unrepaired. According to Nyo Man-shan, the Immortal Sovereign Seal did not need to be repaired until it was undamaged. It was already enough to stop all the foreign races from coming out of the water. If he really repaired the seal until it was undamaged, on one hand, Ning Fan would have to pay a huge price and his cultivation base might be damaged. On the other hand, the undamaged seal would not allow Nyo Man-shan to escape. Nyo Man-shan had been longing for freedom in the outside world for a very long time. He did not want to die here. He still wanted to continue the bloodline of the Heavenly Bull clan in the outside world. The damage of the immortal sovereign seal had already reached 86%. This time, Ning Fan repaired the seal to 99% in one go. He did not repair the last 10%. After checking for a while, he realized that he would have to pay a huge price to perfectly repair the seal. Thus, he gave up. The power of the seal was enough to barely protect Dong Tian. There was no need to pursue perfection. Ning Fan was not the kind of person who would sacrifice his life for the sake of pursuing perfection. Finally, Ning Fan's purpose of diving into the water this time was achieved. At the moment when the seal was repaired to 99%, all the foreign experts' expressions changed. They were filled with rage. Outside the sealed tower, Sovereign Jin Heng and the others were stunned at first. Then, they were overjoyed. Dong Tian is safe now. Sovereign Jin Heng and the others laughed heartily. They did not expect that Ning Fan could repair the immortal sovereign seal despite the danger of ancient grand cultivators. It was truly heaven-defying. Dong Tian is safe now. But all of you must die. It was the furious voice of the great divine priest of the foreign races. His voice reverberated throughout the ruins of the heavenly shadow clan. The chaos in the eastern boundary river had finally come to an end after the immortal sovereign seal was repaired. The plan of the foreign races to wreak havoc in Dong Tian had become a piece of paper. How could he not hate them? The great divine priest was about to go mad with anger. He had imagined countless scenarios when he came to the heavenly shadow clan. However, he did not expect that the other party had already repaired the immortal sovereign seal as soon as he arrived. The speed of repair was too fast. Could it be that Niu Manshan actually took the initiative to repair the seal? How was this possible? Didn't Niu Manshan hate Zido to the bone? Why would he take the initiative to help Zido repair the seal? Could it be that the person Zido sent to the repaired tower was someone who was extremely good at talking? He actually managed to convince Niu Manshan to help repair the seal. Who is it? Who ruined this old man's plan? I will tear his body into 1,000 pieces. The great divine priest's angry roar carried the terrifying pressure of a second-level demi-saint. It was like the sky was overturning and the sea was overturning. It pressed down on the Archjin Heng and the others below. A moment ago, the Archjin Heng and the others were overjoyed. The next moment, they were so frightened that their faces were drained of blood. This was because the foreign race's army had arrived. Not only did the second-level demi-saint great divine priest come, but there were also several other demi-saints behind him. Their auras were like the sky, sealing the area so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. There was no way to escape. We will die. Fortunately, we will die a worthy death, a worthy death. I have been selfish all my life. I never thought that one day I would die for the sake of the world. Ha ha ha, very good, very good. I have not let down my entire life of cultivation. The Archjin Heng and the others suddenly burst into laughter. Even though they were pale from the great divine priest's ferocious aura, they still laughed fearlessly. They had made up their minds to come to the bottom of the water. They had asked for benevolence, and they had received it. Die! The great divine priest waved his hand and the demi-saints behind him charged at the Archjin Heng and the others. Inside the sealed tower, Ning Fan, who had sensed the situation, was about to act. Suddenly, a few sighs came from the empty bottom of the water. Sigh. I didn't expect that we, the Eastern Heavens demi-saints, who have cultivated the Tao for our entire life, would lose our courage. We have to be cautious and cautious in everything we do. We are not as good as these juniors who have seen through life and death. All of you have done very well. You can retreat now. Just leave the rest to us old men. Suddenly, a bright light shone from the bottom of the water. Within the light, Xiang Bozi, Taoist Mu Song, Old Man Ho Tu and a few demi-saints of the southern clan appeared in front of everyone. As the Eastern Heavens demi-saints, they still came to the bottom of the boundary river under the drive of their sense of responsibility. There were also the Eastern Heavens immortal emperors, immortal kings and immortal venerables who did not participate in the operation this time. All of them followed the Eastern Heavens demi-saints. Among them, there were also the Eastern Heavens women who were led by Zhang Yu and Old Wu's subordinates like Ning Fan. Where is that little fellow? Zhang Yu's cold eyes swept across the ruins of the Heavenly Shadow clan with a hint of imperceptible anxiety. When he sensed that Ning Fan was in the sealed tower and his chi was safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. How dare you? A mere Eastern Heavens demi-saint dares to act presumptuously at the bottom of my boundary river? Don't you want to live anymore? A first-level demi-saint of the foreign race roared furiously and directly rushed towards Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu harumphed disdainfully. A ray of moonlight that carried the aura force of a first-level demi-saint suddenly shot out, causing the demi-saint of the foreign race to retreat in a sorry state. He coughed out some blood and was greatly shocked. Demi-saint. When did you appear among the Eastern Heavens demi-saints? Who are you? You're asking me who I am. Listen carefully. I'm the concubine of the Eastern Heavens Yama King, Zhang Yu. I'm very angry that you want to touch that little fellow. Chapter 1157. What? This woman was actually the ancient Emperor Zhang Yu immortal concubine. Didn't immortal concubine Zhang Yu die long ago? I heard that immortal concubine Zhang Yu was only a 9 tribulation immortal emperor when she was alive. How did she break through to the quasi-sage stage? Be careful. This woman is an ancient cultivation great emperor. Once she becomes a sage-to-be, she won't be a match for a first-stage sage-to-be from the Dharma-ending era. Her strength is almost comparable to a second-stage sage-to-be. Are you kidding me? The dignified Zhang Yu immortal concubine actually claimed to be someone else's concubine? Who was the king of the Eastern Heavens? What right did he have to tell this woman to bow down? Could it be that this East Heaven Yama is the same person as the white-robed Yama? Hearing Zhang Yu's name, the expressions of the demi-saints of the foreign races changed and they started guessing. The truth was just like what these quasi-saints of the foreign races had guessed. Be it the white-robed Yama or the Eastern Heaven Yama, they were all titles given to him by the people of the world. The difference between them was that the former was the description given to him by the members of the foreign races while the latter was the description given to him by the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven. Since most of the low-grade foreign races and the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven could not speak the same language, it was naturally difficult for them to address Ning Fan in the same way. The reason why they all used the title, Yama, to address him was undoubtedly a coincidence. Although it was a coincidence, there was also a certain inevitability to it. Ning Fan's figure, which kept galloping across the battlefield of the Realm River, was really like the King of Hell. Wherever Ning Fan passed by, the corpses of the foreign races piled up like mountains. During the chaos in the Eastern Realm River, Ning Fan had almost relied on his own strength to defeat the foreign races that came out of the water in the battlefield of the Realm River where no quasi-saints would come out. Only then did he lay a solid foundation for the peace of the chaos in the Eastern Realm River. Slaughtering an immortal emperor, killing a half-step saint and subduing a lightning infant. Ning Fan's battle achievements had already spread across the entire Eastern Heaven. His name shocked the world and countless sects of the Eastern Heaven turned pale when they heard of him. When Ning Fan's battle results were passed to Zhang Yu, even someone as strong as immortal concubine Zhang Yu felt astonished. Zhang Yu finally realized that Ning Fan was a rising sun in the cultivation world during the Age of Chaos. Now that he was already in the middle of the sky, there was no longer anyone who could stop his rise. The Dark Ones couldn't. The foreign races of the border river were no exception. Apart from feeling shocked, immortal concubine Zhang Yu was secretly worried about Ning Fan's safety. Even though Ning Fan had given her an order not to allow the people around him to participate in the Battle of the Border River, when Xiang Bozi and the others invited her to come along with them, she still could not help but feel worried and agreed to it. At this moment, immortal concubine Zhang Yu and nearly 100 reinforcements from the eastern sky had arrived at this place. They wanted to help Ning Fan and his group return to the water surface safely. Among these people, there were some who had a close relationship with Ning Fan and some who were strangers to him. There were immortal venerables, immortal kings, immortal emperors, and quasi-sages. The Eastern Sky's quasi-saints had dispatched a total of 6 people. This lineup could be called luxurious. Apart from Mu Song, Xiang Bozi, Old Man Hutu, and Zhang Yu, there was also the southern tribe's 5th elder Zhao Wanggong and 6th elder Ta Shi, 2 great quasi-saints as reinforcements. The reason why these demi-saints had appeared at the right time was naturally because Emperor Grey, Emperor Divine Void, and the others had revealed the plan to repair the seal to their respective masters. When Xiang Bozi and Daoist Mu Song learned that Ning Fan and the others were actually going to risk their lives to repair the immortal sovereign realm seal, their expressions turned solemn. Quasi-saints like them were not willing to get involved in the mortal world easily. They were even more unwilling to put themselves in danger and get involved in the chaos of the border river. However, perhaps the heroic actions of Ning Fan and the others had awakened their courage that was buried deep in their hearts. In the end, they still decided to wade into the murky waters and step into the mortal world. After all, Xiang Bozi and the others still retained the courage of the Purple Dipper immortal cultivators in their bones and blood. Today is a joyous occasion. The immortal sovereign realm seal in the eastern border river has been repaired. The chaos of the foreign races will soon be quelled. Little friend Ning and the others will be the main contributors. Unfortunately, even though little friend Ning has repaired the immortal sovereign realm seal, he still needs a lot of time to deal with the aftermath. If the aftermath is not carried out smoothly, it is very likely that he will fail on the verge of success and cause all the repairs to fail. Let's stall these quasi-saints of the foreign races here and buy little friend Ning some time to deal with the aftermath. When little friend Ning walks out of the sealed tower, we will retreat together. Xiang Bozi wore a smile on his face. He took the lead and charged towards the quasi-saints of the foreign races. He had a deep friendship with Ning Fan. The reason why he came here today was not because he was worried about Ning Fan. The mortal world is tumultuous and we should brave it. Brother Xiang's words are very kind. All of us quasi-saints will attack together and stall these quasi-saints of the foreign races. All the juniors just need to prepare a path of retreat at the side. Everything will be carried out according to the plan. Mu Song and Old Man Ho Tu laughed heartily and charged forward at the same time. Hee hee. Fellow Daoist Ning and the others have risked their lives for the survival of the Eastern Heaven. We should lend them a hand and protect their safety. According to our calculations, the aftermath will probably take at least 6 hours. As long as we can stall the quasi-saints of the foreign races for 6 hours, we will be victorious. The 5th and 6th elders of the southern clan also charged forward. Needless to say, Zhang Yu directly expressed her attitude with her actions. She chose the quasi-saint of the foreign races who had spoken rudely to her just now and dashed towards him with a cold expression. As for the rest of the Eastern Heaven immortal cultivators who had rushed to this place, they formed a formation and guarded the surroundings of the sealed tower, setting up some kind of formation. Fairy Lawn, what kind of formation are you guys setting up? Even with the experience of Emperor Tsang and the others, they could not recognize the formation that the Eastern Heaven immortal cultivators were setting up. Thus, they asked Immortal Loli who was standing at the side. Immortal Loli also came to this place. Even the matter of setting up the formation at the rear was led by her, directing everyone to set up the formation. This is the Heaven returning formation. Immortal Loli casually replied. However, her pitch-black eyes were looking at the direction of the sealed tower from beginning to end. She did not look at Emperor Tsang and the others. She was worried about Ning Fan. Hiss. It's actually the Heaven returning formation. After hearing what was said, the expressions of Emperor Tsang and the others changed. They revealed a look of disbelief and then became overjoyed. This formation's reputation was too great. It was one of the true Heaven 300 absolute formations. It was a kind of ancient formation of the third step. Logically speaking, cultivators in the cultivation ending period should not understand this kind of ancient formation. Even Daoist Mu Song, who was a top-notch expert in the cultivation ending period, did not have the qualifications to possess this kind of formation. Considering that there were also ancient clans like the Southern Clan participating in this operation, Emperor Tsang and the others quickly understood who taught this formation to the Eastern Heaven reinforcements. Presumably, it was a colossus like the southern clan that generously took out this formation. Although fellow Daoist Ning has restored the immortal sovereign seal, he still needs at least a few hours to deal with the aftermath. During this period of time, it will be extremely dangerous for us. More and more foreign reinforcements will be coming to this place. However, if we have the protection of the heaven returning formation, it won't be too difficult for us to protect ourselves or evacuate from this place. Emperor Tsang and the others said happily. Very soon, Emperor Tsang and the others also joined in the formation. They listened to Immortal Loli's command and began to carve formation marks in the water area. The heaven returning formation was a top secret. Immortal Loli was the only one who was told about the complete formation by the southern clan. The others could only listen to her command to know where to carve the formation marks. All the eastern heaven cultivators below the Quasi-Saint realm were setting up the heaven returning formation. The Quasi-Saint realm experts, on the other hand, were fighting against the Quasi-Saints of the foreign races. Logically speaking, first-level Quasi-Saints preferred to seek good fortune and avoid calamity. Normally, they would not risk their lives against Quasi-Saints of the same level. However, who asked Ning Fan to ruin the plan of the foreign races in the eastern boundary river to march into the eastern heaven? Seeing their millions of years of planning going down the drain, all the Quasi-Saints of the foreign races were enraged. They swore to make the eastern heaven cultivators in front of them pay the price. During the battle, these Quasi-Saints of the foreign races simply resorted to all means. They actually had the attitude of wanting to perish together with the eastern heaven's Quasi-Saints. Chi Old Man Ho Tu turned the power of his palm realm into an earthy yellow palm realm sword and cut off the head of his opponent. If it wasn't for the fact that he had just broken through to the Quasi-Saint realm, the power of his palm realm sword could have been even stronger. The one who faced him was a first-level Quasi-Saint of the Water Immortal clan. After his head was cut off, strangely, there was no trace of blood flowing out from his broken neck. Moreover, a blood-red Water Immortal grew out from his broken neck. As soon as the Water Immortal bloomed, the severed head actually grew back. It's actually the Palm Realm Earth. You do have some tricks. But so what if you're a Palm Realm expert? I have the bloodline of the ancient Water Immortal. My flower will never die. How can you kill me? Do you know that ever since the last time we attacked the Eastern Heaven, my clan has been planning for this second invasion for millions of years? Millions of years of painstaking efforts were ruined because of a brat. That Yama child deserves to be killed. You all deserve to be killed even more. Even if I have to give up my cultivation base, I will make you all pay the price. Hand over your lives. The 10-faced Water Immortal form. The Water Immortal Quasi-Saint seemed to have gone mad. He actually burned his cultivation base and transformed into 10 heads. On the forehead of each head was a Water Immortal totem that emitted demonic light. In an instant, the Water Immortal Quasi-Saint's aura rose to the limit of a first-level Quasi-Saint. Under its frenzied attack, one of the heads directly bit down on Elder Huda's Palm Realm sword. It even bit off one of Elder Huda's arms and swallowed it whole. Intense pain spread through his entire body, causing a drop of cold sweat to drip down Elder Huda's forehead. But even more so, he was frightened. He wanted to reconstruct his arm, but shockingly discovered that he couldn't do it. The arm that was bitten off by the 10-faced Water Immortal was lost forever. It was extremely difficult to regrow it. It's actually the legendary 10-faced Water Immortal form. After this person uses this trick, he will definitely fall from the Quasi-Saint realm. He doesn't care about dropping his realm just to kill me. Elder Huda was shaken by the Water Immortal Quasi-Saint's determination. Since he started cultivating, he had experienced many battles between Quasi-Saints. But this was the first time he had encountered a situation where one's life was at stake. In the past, the Quasi-Saints who faced each other would rarely risk their lives in battle. They would all be wary of each other and compromise. But today was different. Elder Huda was deeply aware that if he didn't have the same resolve and risk his life against the Quasi-Saints of the foreign races, he would probably die here. Palm Realm Stacking Ignition. Elder Huda's eyes revealed a ruthless look. he didn't hesitate to ignite the power of the Palm Realm. In an instant, his aura also reached the limit of a first-level quasi-saint. He and the water immortal quasi-saint were locked in a stalemate. They attacked each other crazily, causing blood to flow. Similar to the water immortal quasi-saint, the other quasi-saints of the foreign races also fought with their lives, forcing the Eastern Sky quasi-saint to fight with them. In a rage, the Talisman tribe's quasi-saint used tens of billions of ghost talismans that he had spent hundreds of millions of years to carve. He used up all of them, forcing Xiang Bozi to use all of his trump cards. He even used up the 12 mixed origin energy that he had refined for hundreds of millions of years. The two Golden Stone tribes quasi-saints seemed to have gone crazy. They ignited their Golden Stone true spirits in exchange for power, forcing the two southern tribes quasi-saints to ignite their primordial spirits as well. The foreign race's Grand Divine Priest was even crazier. He was facing Taoist Musang, and they were evenly matched. After a bitter battle, the foreign race's Grand Divine Priest seized an opportunity. He took out hundreds of Khanate Dharma treasures and detonated them all. He didn't use ordinary methods to detonate them. Instead, he used a secret technique of the ancient explosion clan to explode the Dharma treasure's power by hundreds of times. Hundreds of Khanate Dharma treasures were detonated with a secret technique. The power was enough to destroy heaven and earth. The shockwaves of the explosion turned into hundreds of fire dragons. Even great cultivators from the ancient times would suffer some injuries from this attack. The shockwaves of the explosion were so powerful that they were no longer under the control of the Grand Divine Priest. As the caster, he naturally wouldn't be targeted by the shockwaves of the explosion. He was only swept up by a trace of the shockwaves. Even so, he was heavily injured and spat out blood. It was obvious how powerful the explosion was. Caught in the middle of the attack, Taoist Musang had to face the shockwaves of the explosion dozens of times stronger than the Grand Divine Priests. Despite his strength, Taoist Musang couldn't help but feel his heart race. He instantly opened his eyes, which were always tightly shut, and purple light burst forth from them. Taoist Musang didn't know what technique he had used, but the exploding fire dragons disappeared as soon as they got close to him. Taoist Musang had comprehended some kind of technique after opening his eyes. He had guided the terrifying shockwaves of the explosion to another dimension. Even though Taoist Musang had acted quickly, his body had been blown to pieces in that split second. Only his primordial spirit was lucky enough to survive, but it was also gravely injured. This made Taoist Musang's heart ache. For an existence like him, the materials he needed to reconstruct his body were extremely precious and difficult to find. Repairing his body was no easy task. The foreign race's Grand Divine Priest was shocked. He had used such a terrifying attack right from the start, yet he hadn't managed to kill Taoist Musang. This man was truly amazing. Rumor has it that Taoist Musang of the Eastern Heaven Immortal World is extremely powerful. Today, I finally know that these rumors are true. Unfortunately, no matter how strong you are, your body has been destroyed and only your primordial spirit remains. How can you be my match? A wise man submits to circumstances. Why don't you surrender to me, the descendant of Purple Myrtle? After this, I'm willing to share the position of the Grand Divine Priest of the Eastern Border River with you. What do you think? The foreign race's Grand Divine Priest was extremely afraid of Taoist Musang, so he took the initiative to ask him to surrender. In your eyes, my body has been destroyed, but in the world after I opened my eyes, my body is still there, and my golden body hasn't been destroyed. You don't understand. Because the world I see, you can't see. Boom, boom, boom. Taoist Musang sneered and charged forward. He was truly amazing. With just his primordial spirit, he was able to force the foreign race's Grand Divine Priest to retreat. Apart from Musang's side, Zhang Yu's side also had an advantage. Zhang Yu was facing a first-level demi-saint from the Cold Cave clan. Although this person was also attacking with all his might, the gap between him and Zhang Yu was too big. He simply couldn't give Zhang Yu too much pressure. Of course, it wasn't easy for Zhang Yu to defeat a first-level demi-saint who was fighting with all his might. Even with the many ancient techniques she had mastered, she could only maintain a slight advantage. Overall, the Eastern Heaven side had the upper hand in the battle of the demi-saints. When the 7th foreign race demi-saint arrived to help, the situation began to turn against the Eastern Heaven side. The 8th, the 9th, the 14th foreign race demi-saint. As time passed, less than an hour later, all the foreign race demi-saints in the eastern border river had arrived. When the foreign race's side had an absolute advantage in numbers, even the strong Mu Song and Zhang Yu fell into a disadvantageous position and suffered setbacks again and again. The others were in even more danger. Several times, the foreign race's side almost killed Xiang Bozi and the other demi-saints. It was only because of Mu Song and Zhang Yu's help that they didn't succeed. Let me tell you a piece of good news. According to this old man's observation, although the eastern border river's seal of the immortal emperor has already been repaired, it still needs a certain amount of time to deal with the aftermath and reinforce it. Otherwise, the seal of the immortal emperor will become unstable and return to its weak state. This is precisely the reason why the child Yama hasn't come out of the sealed pagoda. It is also the reason why the Eastern Heavens demi-saints are fighting bitterly here to buy time for the child Yama. In other words, we still have a chance to break the immortal emperor's seal. Tens of millions of years of planning still haven't been in vain. As long as we kill the people outside the pagoda, as long as we kill the child Yama before he finishes his business and destroy the pagoda, we still have a small chance to break the recently repaired immortal emperor's seal. All of a sudden, the foreign race's great divine priest realized something and told the other foreign race demi-saints the shocking news he had discovered. As soon as they heard that they still had a chance to attack the Eastern Heaven, the foreign race's morale skyrocketed and their killing intent became even heavier. There was even a demi-saint who directly gave up his life and used some kind of lost purple myrtle divine ability to self-detonate and use all of his blood essence to transform into the purple myrtle imperial blade, which seriously injured Taoist Mu Song's primordial spirit. It was an injury that even Taoist Mu Song's secret technique of opening his eyes could not negate. That kind of damage contained the conviction of the foreign race demi-saint, even if he had to die. Defying the crepe myrtle Tao to emptiness, my star annihilation followed by myriad star slaughter. Unify the northern wilderness for all eternity. Unify the northern wilderness. That was the fearless song of the non-humankind sage-to-be who sacrificed his life. He, too, had a belief that he had to achieve even at the cost of his life. To be able to make a quasi-sage willingly give up his life, the conviction of these foreign quasi-sages was truly indestructible. The blood feud of the Ziwei immortal cultivators was buried in the hearts of every Ziwei descendant. The shame of their ancestors was something they had to redeem at all costs. For the glory of their ancestors, for the beauty of Ziwei immortal cultivators, they could give up everything, including their own lives. This kind of enemy was terrifying. Even Mu Song and the others, who were in the opposing camp, couldn't help but feel a trace of respect for this kind of enemy. Unfortunately, they and the alien races were destined to walk different paths. The descendants of Ziwei had the glory of Ziwei, but the descendants of Zido also had the glory of Zido. Taoist Mu Song also had something that he must protect. In front of this matter, it was impossible for him to make any concessions. I, the Zido immortal cultivator, do not hesitate to fight, do not fear a battle, life and death are all for Zido immortal. Taoist Mu Song was the first to roar. At this moment, how could he still remember to be careful in everything as a quasi-sage? How could he still think about his own safety? He forgot. He completely forgot about it. He only remembered his identity and the glory that was passed down from his ancestors in the depths of his bones and blood. That glory only had one name. It was called Zido Immortal Cultivator. I, the Zido Immortal Cultivator, do not hesitate to fight, do not fear a battle, life and death are all for Zido Immortal. Xiang Bozi and the others revealed a determined look and fought in front of him. All of this was just to buy time for Ning Fan to reinforce the seal and to prevent the eastern sky from being destroyed. Just for the burning conviction in their hearts, they did not hesitate to die in battle here. Why should they be afraid of the mortal world? If they are afraid, then it's fine if they don't cultivate this Tao. Ha ha ha. 6 against 13. All the quasi-sages were fighting with their lives on the line. They were killing the enemy regardless of the cost. Emperor Tsang and the other Eastern Sky reinforcements were shocked by such a heroic battle. What shocked them was not the cruelty of the battle between quasi-sages but the conviction. This battle had nothing to do with the usual killing and seizing treasures of the cultivation world. It had nothing to do with those interests and schemes. There were no benefits. Regardless of winning or losing, the reason why everyone fought with their lives on the line was just to carry out their conviction. Such a battle was something Emperor Tsang and the others had never seen before. They only felt that in their previous life of cultivation, in a lifetime of scheming, in a lifetime of gains and losses, in the face of such a heroic conviction, nothing counted for anything, they were too insignificant. The immortal emperors of the foreign races who came late were also good. Whether it was the immortal emperors, immortal kings, or immortal venerables of the Eastern Sky reinforcements, everyone was infected by each other's conviction. Countless underwater sands were flattened by the fluctuations of the battle between quasi-sages. No one dared to approach this battle between quasi-sages. Only the location of the sealed tower remained standing. None of the Eastern Sky reinforcements around the sealed tower were affected by the fluctuations of the quasi-sages. This was all the credit of the heaven-returning grand formation. Under the direction of the immortal Lowly, the heaven-returning grand formation's runes were engraved little by little. In the name of the purple myrtle immortals, I am willing to sacrifice 180 million years of cultivation to ask the saints to write the river diagram and Luo Shu to kill the enemy. Seeing that a quasi-sage couldn't even kill Taoist Mu Song, the great divine priest flew into a rage. He didn't hesitate to pay a huge price to summon an ancient high-grade primordial magic treasure. The river diagram and Luo Shu. This was a magic treasure that only saints were qualified to use. With the great divine priest's second stage quasi-sage cultivation, he would have to pay a huge price to use this treasure. This was the most precious treasure passed down by the ancestors of the Dragon Horse clan. It was the great divine priest's greatest trump card. He saw the river diagram and Luo Shu shoot out a ray of golden light. Taoist Mu Song, who had been able to resist the siege of several quasi-sages, was directly pierced by the golden light. Golden blood sprayed from his mouth as he fell to the ground. The great divine priest laughed crazily. His fingers changed, shooting out even more golden light from the river diagram. Countless strands of the river diagram's golden light hung down like silk ribbons, wanting to behead Taoist Mu Song. My life is over. The aura of death on Taoist Mu Song's nascent divinity grew heavier. His vitality was rapidly draining away from the river diagram's golden light. Seeing that Taoist Mu Song was not far from death, at the moment of imminent peril, a pitch-black, jet-black formation light suddenly spread in all directions with the sealed pagoda as the center. The moment he saw the inky array light, Taoist Mu Song suddenly had the confidence to survive. He used the last bit of his eye power to shoot out a boundless purple light. In the blink of an eye, he and the other Eastern Sky quasi-sages teleported into the inky array light. As for the quasi-sages of the foreign races and the thousands of strands of golden light from the river diagram and Luo Shu, they were all kept outside the array light. Fortunately, the great heaven return array was set up in time. Otherwise, I would have died without a doubt. As soon as Taoist Mu Song's nascent divinity entered the array light, he coughed up blood and fainted. The other quasi-sages were all seriously injured and didn't have much strength left to fight. Xiang Bozi's body was half destroyed. The void above Elder Hutu's palm was shattered, and his Dao foundation was severely damaged. The two southern tribe quasi-sages were seriously injured and on the verge of death. As soon as they entered the array light, they fainted. Zhang Yu's complexion was deathly pale. Her moon-white palace dress was covered with blood. Perhaps she was the one in the best condition among everyone, but the injuries she received were definitely not light. There were several wounds on her body that were bleeding profusely and couldn't be healed. It was unknown what kind of special technique had injured her. Xian, you did well. If you hadn't led the other fellow Taoists to set up this array light, we would certainly have died. Zhang Yu patted Xian Loli's little head and thanked her. She had always sympathized with and loved this little girl who recognized the enemy as her father. Although the Great Heaven Return Array has a great reputation, I don't know how long it can last under the siege of these quasi-sages of the foreign races. Although Xian Loli had been taught by the southern tribe and set up this array light, she wasn't clear about the specific power of this array. She had only heard about it before. It could be said that the eastern sky quasi-sages were already an arrow at the end of its flight after being besieged by the foreign race's quasi-sages. The enemies were more than twice the number of quasi-sages. It wasn't strange for the eastern sky quasi-sages to be unable to defeat the enemies. It was already very rare for them to be able to save everyone's lives. It was also thanks to Taoist Mu Song and Zhang Yu's efforts. Xian Loli was also not very confident about whether this array light could protect everyone and help Ning Fan strengthen the seal to buy some time. She could only take one step at a time. Once the array light is broken, everyone's outcome would be very, very tragic, seeing that they would be able to kill Mu Song and the others with just a little more effort, but these people managed to escape into a formation. The great divine priest's expression turned incomparably gloomy. The other quasi-sages also wore the same expression. Humph. I can break a mere formation light with a single strike. Do you think you can survive from me with just a formation light? The great divine priest sneered and shot thousands of golden rays from He Tu and Luo Shu at the black formation light. The destructive power of a high-grade innate magic treasure was extremely terrifying. All the quasi-sages of the foreign races were shocked by its momentum. However, what surprised them was that a dignified high-grade innate magic treasure actually failed to penetrate the unknown black formation light in a single strike. All the quasi-sages realized that the black protective formation light was not an ordinary formation light. They realized that the surface of the formation light was coated with a layer of membrane that looked like dense scales. It was actually the sacred membrane that could only be activated by third-step formation masters. What kind of formation is this? There is actually a sacred membrane on the formation light? The quasi-sages of the foreign races became slightly solemn. It was not strange that they did not know about the heaven-returning grand formation. However, they could tell that this formation was very powerful. This is the heaven-returning grand formation. I can't be wrong. I've read about it in an ancient book before. The great divine priest of the foreign races was knowledgeable. After examining it for a few times, he recognized the formation and gasped. How should he put it? In terms of grade, He Tu and Luo Shu were items of the same grade as the heaven-returning grand formation. However, He Tu and Luo Shu were not offensive magic treasures. Even though they possessed the power of high-grade innate magic treasures, it was very difficult for them to penetrate the defense of the heaven-returning grand formation. The power of a magic treasure was closely related to the user's cultivation level. Based on the great divine priest's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to display the destructive power of a third-step formation. Formations, on the other hand, were not related to the user's cultivation level. As long as there were enough materials, even the weakest person could arrange a formation with 80 to 90% of its power. In this way, it was impossible to break the heaven-returning grand formation with He Tu and Luo Shu alone. Fortunately, they had many quasi-sages on their side, so the great divine priest was not worried that they could not break the formation. Let's attack together. No matter what, we must break this formation. Once this formation is broken, all the eastern sky cultivators inside will become meat on the chopping block. It will not be difficult to kill them. If we march into the eastern sky, there is still a glimmer of hope. The great divine priest ordered in a deep voice. In an instant, more than 10 quasi-sages of the foreign races attacked together. The formation light of the heaven-returning grand formation flickered under their siege, but it was not broken. 2 hours passed. 4 hours passed. The great divine priest's expression was extremely unsightly. 13 quasi-sages had joined hands to attack the formation, but they actually could not break it. This heaven-returning grand formation was just too powerful. The reputation of the 300 absolute formations of the true heaven was not just for show. Only a stronger attack could break the shell of this formation. How long more until Lord Blood God arrives? The great divine priest's expression was gloomy as he transmitted his voice to the quasi-sages beside him. Soon. We can already detect the power of the Blood God. I think Lord Blood God is not far from here. A quasi-sage who was good at sensing answered. That's good. We will take a break and not attack anymore. The shell of this heaven-returning grand formation is too hard. Let's let Lord Blood God break it in one go. The great divine priest said helplessly. Then, a strange scene appeared. The quasi-sages of the foreign races suddenly stopped attacking the heaven-returning grand formation. Instead, they sat down cross-legged and adjusted their breathing, as if they were waiting for something. The eastern sky cultivators were struggling to maintain the formation's operation, waiting for Ning Fan to come out from the sealed tower. Seeing that the quasi-sages of the foreign races suddenly gave up on attacking the formation, many of them heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that the foreign races' quasi-sages had given up on attacking the formation. However, only a few of them could sense that something was wrong with the atmosphere. It's very depressing. Extremely depressing. It seems like something bad is approaching this place. Zhang Yu said solemnly. At the moment, only she, Xiang Bozi and Hudu were not in a coma due to severe injuries. Among the three of them, she was the strongest and her injuries were the lightest. Naturally, she was the leader of the group. After hearing Zhang Yu's words, Xiang Bozi and Old Man Huda's faces turned solemn. They could also feel that some peerless ferocious creature was approaching them. Strong. Extremely strong. There seemed to be only one thing in the entire eastern border river that could give them such a terrifying sense of crisis. I'm afraid Blood God Gungwu is coming. Xiang Bozi revealed the mystery. Ning Fan was not the only one who knew about Blood God Gungwu's existence. As a quasi-sage, if he did not know about Blood God Gungwu's existence, why would he be so secretive about the chaos of the border river? Just as Xiang Bozi's voice fell, a building in the ruins of the Heaven Shadow clan in the distance suddenly collapsed. The rock stratum at the bottom of the water cracked. A gigantic tentacle that was as thick as a mountain suddenly pierced out from the crack of the rock stratum. Without saying a word, it blasted towards the heaven-returning grand formation. At the moment when the tentacle approached, the quasi-sages of the foreign races were all delighted while the cultivators of the eastern sky were shocked. Everyone could feel the aura force of an ancient great cultivator coming from the tentacle. Boom! For the first time, a crack appeared on the unbreakable heaven-returning grand formation because of an external attack. After all, this formation was not set up by a sage. Its defensive power could not reach the third step. As for the attacking power of this tentacle, it was already infinitely close to the third step. Awesome! 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 Seeing that its all-out attack had only managed to create a crack in the heaven-returning array, the Blood God, who was hidden in the rock stratum at the bottom of the lake, became even more enraged. Due to its low intelligence, it could only express its anger with simple words. Ox 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 ox. No one knew what it was trying to say. Only it knew what kind of anger was contained in the words of this low intelligence. It could feel that the damned Nyomanshan was close at hand. He had already woken up and was in the formation in front of it, inside the sealed tower. As long as it could destroy the formation, it could fight with Nyomanshan again. It wanted to eat Nyomanshan. It wanted to pay back all the humiliation it had suffered that year. Awesome! 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 More tentacles pierced through the rock stratum and attacked the formation. Several quasi-sages of the foreign races happened to be in the way of some tentacles. They couldn't dodge in time and were blown away by the tentacles, vomiting blood. Damn it! That evildoer can't distinguish between friend and foe again. He promised us that he wouldn't attack us casually. The injured quasi-sages of the foreign races were so angry that they started to curse. The Grand Divine Priest's face changed. He immediately scolded them. Watch your words. If you provoke this great god, none of you will be able to live. Don't let him go. This monster is so cruel. Chapter 1158. Fortunately, Blood God Gung-woo was so eager to take revenge on Nyo Man-shan that he'd completely lost his mind. He didn't even notice that the demi-saints were secretly criticizing him. At this moment, Blood God Gung-woo only had one thing on his mind, to shatter the heaven reversal formation, shatter the sealed tower, and fight Nyo Man-shan again. Roar! Blood God Gung-woo roared, and the underwater world lost all color in an instant. The roar of the sea demon and the blood-colored sound waves reverberated at the bottom of the river, frightening all who saw it. This was the anger of an ancient great cultivator. Whether it was the water or the sky, everything began to shake violently and resonated with the blood-colored sound waves. Heaven and earth were shaking, and so was the boundary river. No one could stand firm in such an intense shaking, not even the powerful Grand Divine Priest. He swayed left and right in a sorry state. The heaven reversal formation shook, and Xiang Bozi and the others, protected by the formation, also lost their footing due to the shaking. Only the sealed tower remained as steady as Mount Tai. It was as if there was an existence no weaker than Blood God Gung-woo maintaining the sealed tower. Even if the world was turned upside down, the tower would still stand firm. Roar! Blood God Gung-woo was even more furious. Hundreds and thousands of blood-colored tentacles pierced out from the underwater rock stratum and bombarded the heaven reversal formation. Any attack from one of its tentacles was enough to injure a demi-saint. The bombardment from hundreds and thousands of tentacles had the power to destroy the world. Even the Grand Divine Priest sucked in a breath of cold air, not daring to get involved. His figure swayed as he led his subordinates and retreated far away from the sealed tower. Boom, boom, boom. Under Blood God Gung-woo's ferocious attacks, more cracks appeared on the heaven-returning array. There were even some places that were permanently dented by Blood God Gung-woo's attacks. Deep pits appeared one after another on the array light. The formation could block the attacks from the He-Tu and the Luo-Shu, but it was barely enough to stop Blood God Gung-woo. Emperor Tsang-woo and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. The formation that even the 13 demi-saints of the foreign races couldn't break, and the formation that even the innate upper-grade innate river diagram and inscription of Luo couldn't break, was actually cracked by the hideous blood-red tentacles in just a few moves. Even though Ning Fan had reminded them before that there was an ancient great cultivator guarding the foreign races and they must not fight against him, only when they saw this ancient great cultivator with their own eyes did they realize how small the world they used to live in was and how huge the gap between them and the other party was. So what if he was an immortal emperor? What was a quasi-sage? In front of an ancient great cultivator, he was still just an ant, tiny and insignificant. Seeing how Blood God Gung-woo was so powerful that he could leave the great heaven reversal array riddled with scars in just a single exchange, even Xiang Bozi and the others, who were mentally prepared, had a drastic change in their expressions. This was not normal, absolutely not normal. Blood God Zhengguo was indeed very strong, but it should not have been so easy for him to destroy the heaven returning formation in his normal state. In ancient times, the Gung-woo clan was born out of anger. The more angry they were, the stronger their combat power would be. Could it be that there was something that enraged Blood God Gung-woo, causing his strength to skyrocket due to his anger to the point that even the heaven-returning grand formation could not withstand it? Awesome! 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 Blood God Gung-woo roared. The word awesome was the only word he knew. It contained immense hatred. Unfortunately, Xiang Bozi and the others were destined to not understand Blood God Gung-woo's roar. They would not know why Blood God Gung-woo was so angry. Of course, it was impossible for them to watch Blood God Gung-woo destroy the heaven-reversing grand formation and kill all of them. Young friends, please lend your magic power to this old man. Xiang Bozi, who only had half of his body left, spurted out a mouthful of blood essence. He smeared the blood essence on his remaining hand and carved several blood-red runes on the formation light of the heaven-reversing grand formation. Then, Xiang Bozi refined countless unknown rare materials into the heaven-reversing grand formation. No one could recognize those runes. However, Emperor Tsang and the others still obeyed Xiang Bozi's order and channeled all of their magic power into his body to help him. Xiang Bozi did not have much magic power left. If it was not because of that, he would certainly not borrow magic power from the juniors. After all, everyone's magic power was different. If he were to absorb other people's magic power into his body without permission, it would leave impurities in his own magic power if he was careless. If he wanted to remove these impurities in the future, it would take countless years of hard work. The loss outweighed the gain. However, Xiang Bozi could not care so much anymore. Behind him was the sealed tower where Ning Fan was. It was the hope of the Eastern Heavens cultivators. Ning Fan was still working hard for the rise and fall of Eastern Heaven. How could he not do his part for the survival of Eastern Heaven? Ancestor Summoning Formation Mark, activate. Unfilial disciple Xiang Bozi earnestly requests the Ancestral Master to manifest his spirit and bestow down his protective power. Every word that Xiang Bozi uttered required a large amount of life force. His appearance became older and older while his chi became weaker and weaker. As he continued to cast his technique, the blood talismans that he drew began to shine brightly. All of a sudden, it was as if there was a pair of invisible hands that tore apart the space-time. An ancient chi descended upon the entire heaven-returning grand formation. Within the light, an illusory woman whose appearance could not be seen clearly stepped on the pitch-black clouds and mist of space. Like a deity, she descended upon the heaven-returning grand formation. That woman who was treading on the clouds seemed to be a different species that should not exist in this space-time. Her entire body was hidden in the vast power of space, giving people an unimaginable feeling of distance. She was obviously close at hand, but it seemed to be out of reach. The woman who was treading on the clouds just waved her hand and the hundreds and thousands of tentacles of the blood god froze in an instant. They could no longer attack her. That freezing was not an ice seal. Instead, it was the freezing of the space. At first glance, the blood god Gung Wu seemed to have been frozen into an ice sculpture. However, that was not the case. All the experts of the foreign races were shocked by this scene. They thought that this woman who was treading on the clouds was really powerful. She actually restrained the blood god Gung Wu so easily. Could it be that she was a great cultivator with an illustrious reputation in the ancient times? Looking at this woman's appearance, she didn't seem to be a living person. Instead, she seemed to be a deceased person. If that was the case, could it be that this woman was the ancestral protection will, summoned by the Eastern Sky cultivators? Who is this woman? She actually blocked such a terrifying tentacle attack with just a raise of her hand. Sky Emperor and a large group of Eastern Sky cultivators who didn't know what was going on all sucked in a breath of cold air. Afterwards, they were overjoyed, happy that their side had one more powerful ally. Xiang Bozi and some of the Divine Void Pavilion cultivators, including the Divine Void Twin Emperors, all fell to their knees as soon as they saw the woman riding atop the clouds. They called her ancestor, their expressions incomparably respectful, but also incomparably ashamed. They needed their ancestors to descend to protect themselves. This was enough to show how useless their descendants were. How could Xiang Bozi and the others not feel ashamed? Only then did the Eastern Sky cultivators understand that originally this woman was the godly Void Pavilion's ancestor, unexpectedly summoned by Xiang Bozi. The great name of the Divine Void ancestor was known to all of the Eastern Sky cultivators. To be able to single-handedly establish such a massive influence like the Divine Void Pavilion, it was enough to see what kind of powerhouse the Divine Void Pavilion ancestor was. With the help of this woman, the Eastern Sky cultivators faced the blood god Wu, and their confidence greatly increased in an instant. Xiang Bozi. So that's how it is. You're the son of Bozi. You're Xiang Caizhou's adopted son. Xiang Caizhou is my fourth disciple, and you're her adopted son. Calling yourself my grand disciple is actually reasonable and reasonable. The current position of Divine Void Pavilion's old ancestor is held by you? The woman riding atop the clouds lowered her head and glanced down at Xiang Bozi, understanding the cause and effect within. Yes. Xiang Bozi respectfully replied. The woman riding atop the clouds nodded. She suddenly became aware of something and looked towards the sealed pagoda at the center of the heaven-returning great formation. She noticed that there seemed to be an ancient chaos inheritor within the pagoda. When she became aware of this matter, her heart immediately ached and she felt bitter. So to say, you summoned me because you want me to protect you all, as well as that ancient chaos inheritor who is currently reinforcing the immortal emperor's seal, yes. I ask Ancestor to make a move and save us from danger. After this matter, this grand disciple is willing to sacrifice his life to compensate for the loss of Ancestor's protective intent. I absolutely won't regret it. Xiang Bozi resolutely said. No. There's no need for that. You just need to live well. There's no need for you to sacrifice your life. After all, this strand of protective intent of mine has been wandering for too long. I'm already very tired. Very tired. I've been protecting others but no one has ever protected me. So, I'm very happy that you summoned me. This is a chance for me to get rid of my endless longing. I will protect his disciple for him. However, this is the last time. Rumble, blood god Gung Wu's thousands of tentacles shone brightly with blood-red light, breaking free from the spatial seal. Pieces of broken spatial ice fell from the sky with a loud rumble. Roar, blood god Gung Wu was enraged. He did not know who this woman was. He only knew that since this woman dared to attack him, she must pay the price. Tribulation flash. Blood god Gung Wu no longer cared about the heaven-returning grand formation. Instead, he shot out a scarlet light pillar from the endless underground rock strata, trying to destroy the woman. If Ning Fan was here, he would certainly notice that the tribulation flash that blood god Gung Wu used was almost the same as the barbaric flash. In the past, Ning Fan had also used the power of the tribulation flash to release the barbaric flash. However, it was not as pure as blood god Gung Wu's. He actually imitated the barbaric flash and created another type of tribulation flash. The scarlet light pillar of the tribulation flash was twice as powerful as the barbaric flash pillar of the same grade. The purity of its energy was much higher. The destructive power of a single strike was enough to severely injure a second-level quasi-saint like Mu Song. The woman treading on the clouds gently clapped her palm. Her spatial power turned into a pitch-black light pillar and collided with the tribulation flash. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. The tribulation flash and the spatial light pillar cancelled each other out. They were evenly matched. Hiss! All the experts of the foreign races sucked in a cold breath. Their expressions changed drastically when they saw how powerful the woman treading on the clouds was. One should know that this woman was not a living person at all. She was just the manifestation of a strand of protective intent. At most, she could only retain around 50% of her strength when she was alive. Moreover, she could not maintain it for too long. This woman only used 50% of her strength and she was already able to fight evenly with blood god Gung Wu. How terrifying would she be when she was at her peak? It's her. There's only one woman in the eastern sky who can use the power of space to such a level. Quickly inform Lord Blood God that this woman is the founder of the Godly Void Pavilion. Her Tao of space is extremely mysterious. You can't fight her head-on. You can only defeat her with your wits. The great divine priest's expression was unsightly as he commanded. Defeating her with his wits meant that they would not directly clash with this woman. Instead, they would find a way to exhaust the power of her protective intent. After all, this woman was only a manifestation of the protective intent. Once her power was exhausted, she would naturally dissipate. There was no need to kill her head-on. A foreign race quasi-saint carried the great divine priest's instructions and flew toward the area where the blood god's tentacles were concentrated. He wanted to inform blood god Gung Wu of this plan. Unfortunately, the foreign race quasi-saint hadn't even reached the place when he was slapped away by a tentacle as thick as a mountain. He was so seriously injured that he fainted. Damn it! This evildoer can't distinguish between friend and foe again. All the foreign race experts' expressions were unsightly. However, after the great divine priest's warning last time, no one dared to voice their anger. They only grumbled in their hearts and did not say these words aloud. This is troublesome. Lord Blood God's intelligence was originally not high. What little reason he had left was now completely submerged by his anger. He won't listen to our advice. How about this, let's attack together and help Lord Blood God deal with this woman. Let's end this quickly. We can't let this woman buy more time for that Yama brat. The foreign race great divine priest commanded in a low voice. With this command, all the foreign race quasi-saints joined the battle and attacked the cloud-riding woman. Unfortunately, bang! 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 Another few foreign race quasi-saints were slapped away. Blood God Gung Wu did not allow anyone to interfere in his battle. He wanted to avenge the humiliation that the cloud-riding woman had brought him. Whoever interfered in his battle, he would kill them. Oh, interesting. You actually want to rely on your own strength to compete with me. The Gung Wu clan has a battle maniac like you. You can be considered a strange species, divine space graveyard human bind. Void sky burial song. Divine void boundless blade. One after another, the lost techniques of the godly void pavilion were used by the cloud-riding woman. Blood God Gung Wu screamed in pain. The rock stratum at the bottom of the lake was completely shattered. In the deep underground crack, an incomparably huge cuttlefish revealed the tip of its huge body. Its body was too big. Its blood chi was too vast. Even though it was beaten up by the cloud-riding woman, it did not lose too much of its blood chi. Its injuries were almost non-existent. Tribulation flash. 3 times tribulation flash. 10 times tribulation flash. Blood God Gung Wu's attack was very simple. Other than the physical attack of its tentacles, it was the magical attack of tribulation flash. However, its tribulation flash was not to be underestimated. For some reason, it was actually able to continuously increase the power of the original tribulation flash. Even with the strength of the cloud-riding woman, it was still a little difficult to deal with the 10 times tribulation flash. After all, she was not her real body. She was not a living person. She was just a protective consciousness. Not only did she only have 50% of her strength, she could not use many of her abilities. Moreover, she did not have the magical treasure of the life immortal realm. When Blood God Gung Wu released the 100 times tribulation flash, the cloud-riding woman coughed blood for the first time. This was the proof that her strength was on the verge of exhaustion. Blood God Gung Wu's strength seemed to be inexhaustible, but her strength was very limited. As expected, the dead could not compete with the living. I really want to teach this Gung Wu a good lesson while I'm still alive. Boom! Another 100 times tribulation flash was released. Half of the cloud-riding woman's body was blown up. With a bitter expression, she looked down for the last time. She was not looking at Xiang Bozi, the slightly familiar Zhang Yu immortal concubine, or any of the eastern sky cultivators. She was only looking at the sealed tower. That person's disciple was in the tower, but where was that person now? According to a trace of feeling from the divine tomb, that person was no longer in the divine tomb. If that person died in the divine tomb, according to the restriction she had set in the past, the divine tomb should have been buried with him. But the divine tomb was still there. In other words, the reason why that person was not in the divine tomb was not because he died, but because he had some kind of opportunity and came back to life. It might be a permanent resurrection or just a temporary one. In short, he had life again, but because of this, he obviously had life again, but he did not come to find her. No, to look at her protective consciousness that was left until now, even if it was just a glance. Sure enough, he still didn't care. Everyone thought that the ancient chaos great emperor who created the yin-yang transformation must be a sentimental person. Unexpectedly, he was an infatuated and heartless person who only loved one person in his life. This is the last time. If there is a next life, I would rather not cultivate the Tao, not be a human, heartless, emotionless, without love or hate, without life or death, than to know you again, that year, you saved my lake immortal Tao from the heavenly tribulation, gave me the void technique, helped me achieve the Tao, helped me to establish merits, and was on the verge of becoming a saint. You gave me a colorful boat to cross the sea, saved my life, and lingered on in the illusory dream world. I have already returned all of these kindness to you, there will not be a next time. Avicii soul sealing technique. The cloud-riding woman let out a bitter smile and used up the last trace of the protective consciousness. Her whole body drifted away like smoke, and all of the power turned into an ancient golden talisman, sealing blood god Gung Wu firmly. In this place, no one could recognize this talisman. This kind of talisman restriction was too ancient. However, if the cultivators of the true world saw it, they would certainly be shocked by this talisman. This was a type of Buddhist sect talisman that could perish together with the enemy. It could sacrifice itself and pull the enemy together into the Avicii hell. The caster would die, and before dying, they would suffer the unimaginable pain of the Avicii punishment. The victim would be sealed in the Avicii hell for a certain period of time. It could be 3 to 5 years, 30 to 50 years, or even 3 to 500,000 years. The specific time of the sealing depended on the difference in cultivation between the caster and the victim. With the remaining protective consciousness of the cloud-riding woman, it was naturally impossible to seal blood god Gung Wu in the Avicii hell for too long. At most, it would be a few days. A few days was probably enough for the Eastern Sky cultivators to escape, and probably enough for the ancient chaos successor to escape. She was already a dead person, and naturally, she would not lose her life because of using this technique. However, the pain of the Avicii punishment still had to be tasted once. According to the legends of the true world, the pain of this punishment was enough to make a quasi-saint with a weak will open his mouth and beg for mercy. It was obvious how painful it was. Was there such a person who you hated to the bones, but you were still willing to suffer the Avicii punishment for him? Even if he didn't know, he didn't care, and he wouldn't even look at you because of it. In the instant that the seal was about to reach its body, blood god Gung Wu let out a frightened roar. Its body instinctively told it that the seal was extremely dangerous, and it had to be dodged. It was a kind of mutual destruction technique. Blood god Gung Wu's little spiritual wisdom was incomparably clear that the cloud-riding woman in front of it was an out-and-out lunatic. Crazy to the extreme. Crazy to the point of being pure. It wanted to dodge, but it couldn't. However, just as it was about to despair, the moment that the seal was about to reach its body, a golden light flashed and blocked the seal. You actually want to save it. That seal was blocked by the golden light and flew backwards. As it flew backwards, it once again transformed into the illusory and broken figure of the cloud-riding woman. The casting of the technique failed. Moreover, what made the cloud-riding woman unable to understand was that the one who stopped her from casting the technique to seal blood god Gung Wu was unexpectedly the ancient chaos successor that she wanted to protect. What was going on? Wasn't ancient chaos successor on her side? Why was he helping the enemy? Save it, humph. Why would I save it? What qualifications does this Gung Wu fish have for me to save it? I'm trying to save you. You're still so young. Why are you so stubborn and want to taste the pain of Avicii hell? TSK, TSK, TSK. Since ancient times, people who are full of love are filled with hatred. Still, an old widower like me is more carefree and carefree. I don't have any worries and I won't be so foolish and stubborn for someone. The golden light dispersed. A giant with horns and a shield in his left hand and a sword in his right hand appeared in front of everyone. His entire body was burning with golden flames. Judging from his appearance, that golden flame giant was exactly the same as Ning Fan's eternal true body. However, the strange thing was that this golden flame giant had an extra pair of horns for some reason. Its cultivation base was also unbelievably high. It actually emitted the cultivation base of an ancient great cultivator. Humph. You're the successor of ancient chaos. How dare you call me little girl? Didn't your master teach you to respect your seniors? Wait, why is your cultivation base so high? You've actually reached the peak of ancient great cultivators. The cloud-riding woman's face turned red. It was not because of shyness but anger. How many years had it been since she was called little girl, especially by the successor of ancient chaos? That kind of feeling really made her a little angry and she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Humph. Aren't you the little girl of the Xiang family? I've heard of you before. You're deeply in love with ancient chaos but you can't get him. Every day, you're on the verge of death. That's right. I'm the successor of ancient chaos. However, I just want to call you little girl. What can you do to me? I remember that your father's name is Divine Sovereign Xiang. Am I right? Humph. I'm Ning Manshan. I'm your father's friend. Calling you little girl for your entire life is because I think highly of you. If I look down on you, I should call you a silly little girl. During your 1-month celebration, I even gave your father a string of divine coins. In the past, when you were changing your diapers, you even smelled the stench. Wait. Stinky brat, don't snatch my consciousness. I haven't finished reminiscing with my old friend's daughter. Humph. Do you see that? You can't snatch my consciousness. So where were we, little girl? Oh, right. Speaking of diapers. The golden-armored giant was talking to himself. His appearance was very annoying. The cloud-riding woman who was about to disappear was so infuriated by the golden-armored giant that she wanted to give him a punch. Unfortunately, her power had been exhausted. She was about to disappear and leave this world forever. Otherwise, she would certainly give this shameless and insolent successor of ancient chaos a good beating. Ning Manshan, is it? Stinky brat, I'll remember you. If there's a next life. Bang! Before the cloud-riding woman could finish her angry words, she disappeared. Senior Godly Void, I'm very sorry. I didn't say those words just now. It was Niu Manshan who was causing trouble. Ning Fan, who had regained his consciousness, wanted to apologize to the cloud-riding woman. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Ning Fan shook his head helplessly. Forget it. At least his intervention had prevented this woman from suffering from Avicii. The result was already very good. As for the grudge that this woman held against him. Cough cough, an immortal's death is like the scattering of one's thoughts. This woman's true body had already been dead for many years. Even her last trace of protective sense had just dissipated. She no longer had the chance to take revenge on him. She would no longer have the chance to reincarnate. Oh? I've underestimated you. You actually managed to win against me once. Unfortunately, the young lady of the Xiang family is destined to not be able to hear your apology. You two will never meet again in this life. Of course, that kind of insignificant matter is fine. Now, let's work together to deal with this small fish. I'm a little hungry. I want to eat the Fusang Immortal Kingdom's cuttlefish dumplings. The ingredients are right in front of me. Do you know how to cook this dish? The golden-armored giant muttered to himself. I don't know. I've never heard of it before. The golden-armored giant answered himself. Forget it. After I kill this Gung Wu and obtain the high-grade cuttlefish meat, I'll cook it for you. That taste. TSK TSK TSK. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Heavenly Bull Skin Mark, Space Mark. In front of countless people's shocked and speechless expressions, the golden-armored giant activated the Heavenly Bull Skin Mark and sucked the gigantic blood god Gung Wu out from the underground rock stratum. However, what greeted him was an unreasonable punch. Escape Mark, Ancient Devil Mountain Breaking Strike. The blood god Gung Wu, who was sucked out of the ground, let out a miserable shriek. The golden-armored giant's heavy punch sent him back into the underground rock stratum. The blood and chi of this cuttlefish was thousands of times stronger than black rope. Moreover, a single punch had destroyed 1% of it. In other words, the power of this punch was enough to kill dozens of black ropes. Everyone was stunned by this earth-shattering punch. The Grand Divine Priest of the foreign race stared at the golden-armored giant in disbelief. According to the information he received, this golden-armored giant was definitely Ning Fan's ancient true body, although his appearance was slightly different. The power of a single punch was actually this powerful. How could that Yama kid be so powerful? The Grand Divine Priest broke out in a cold sweat. If this punch landed on his body, he would definitely be killed instantly. Hiss! What kind of divine ability is the ancient Devil Mountain Breaking Strike? It actually has such power when combined with the escape mark of my heavenly bull race. It can amplify the power of my punch by tens of times. I've been unparalleled in this world. This technique is definitely one of the top 10 body techniques that I know. The golden-armored giant exclaimed. He wanted to search Ning Fan's memory to learn the ancient Devil Mountain Breaking Strike, but he could not find any of it. Sigh. I really don't know what to do with you. I've opened up my memories for you to see, yet you're still hiding yours. How petty. The golden-armored giant scolded angrily. On the other side, Blood God Gung Wu became even more furious. Without any mercy, a red light beam that was 100 times more powerful blasted towards the golden-armored giant. 100 times Tribulation Flash. Oh, this technique is... The golden-armored giant's eyes lit up. At this moment, it was no longer Niu Manshan who was in control. Ning Fan had regained control of his body. Naturally, he could see many problems in Blood God Gung Wu's 100 times Tribulation Flash. Chapter 1159. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not have much time to think about the 100 times Tribulation Flash because Niu Manshan came to seize the control of his body again. The shield sword in the golden flame giant's hand had long since dissipated. At this moment, he once again activated the escape armor rune of the heavenly bull race. He punched out with the ancient Devil Mountain Break and easily shattered the 100 times Tribulation Flash. The red glow of the shattered Tribulation will illuminated the waters. All the experts here were suppressed by the might of the golden flame giant. Even Blood God Gung Wu couldn't do anything to him. Is this the power of the white-robed king of hell? He can actually suppress Blood God Gung Wu so easily. Each of the experts of the foreign races broke out in cold sweat. None of them had expected that Niu Manshan would help Ning Fan. As a matter of fact, even though this golden flame giant that possessed the strength of an ancient great cultivator was Ning Fan's eternal true body, it was not really accurate to say that it was Ning Fan. Ning Fan was not alone. It was the product of the fusion of Ning Fan and Niu Manshan. The reason why Niu Manshan was able to escape from the sealed tower was because he had attached his true spirit to Ning Fan's body. Moreover, he had used a secret technique of the Heavenly Bull clan that was similar to half-possession to merge his true spirit with Ning Fan's body. Last time, he had used a similar trick to escape. He had used an unlucky expert of the Heavenly Shadow clan who had entered the sealed tower as a medium. Unfortunately, as soon as he got out of the sealed tower at that time, he had already broken away from that mediator and killed him. Therefore, the other members of the foreign race did not know that Niu Manshan had a similar ability that allowed him to transfer all of his cultivation base into Ning Fan's body. This kind of half-possession secret technique was different from ordinary possession, and it was very risky. If Ning Fan's heart was vicious enough and his cultivation base was ruthless enough, he could even devour Niu Manshan's cultivation base and assimilate it into his body. Of course, if Ning Fan really does that, he would certainly benefit tremendously in a short period of time. It was equivalent to directly receiving all of the cultivation base of an ancient great cultivator. However, in the long run, this action would directly destroy all of Ning Fan's Dao foundation, causing him to be stuck at the level of ancient great cultivators for the rest of his life. It was equivalent to using the method of enlightenment to directly raise his cultivation base. The side effects were rather obvious. As such, even though Ning Fan was not a kind person, he would not burn the bridge after crossing it and secretly devour Niu Manshan's cultivation base. As for Niu Manshan, it was precisely because of this that he dared to borrow Ning Fan's body to execute a secret technique to escape from the sealed tower. Within a few hours, he would share the same physical body with Ning Fan. After a few hours, this kind of half-possession would lose its effect and his true spirit would separate from Ning Fan's body. At that time, Ning Fan would revert back to his original cultivation base. But now, he could freely use Niu Mansion's cultivation base to be arrogant and presumptuous. This state of being in a half-possessed state made Ning Fan almost unable to distinguish his own identity. Am I Ning Fan or Niu Mansion? His mind was in a mess. That feeling was very wonderful. Although his mind was a little confused, his entire body was full of energy. With just a thought, he could pluck the stars and the moon, and it was as easy as flipping his hand. During the battle in the desolate wasteland, Ning Fan had also experienced the feeling of an ancient great cultivator for a short period of time. During that time, he was possessed by the eyeball monster and fought against old ancestor Mo, shocking the entire world. This time, he was once again coincidentally possessed by an ancient great cultivator, allowing him to temporarily obtain the power of a great cultivation realm expert. What was different from the last time was that Ning Fan's cultivation base was still weak at that time. That was why he almost played the role of a spectator during the battle with Mo. This time, however, his divine spirit sea of consciousness could faintly rival Niu Mansion's consciousness. The first punch heavily injured Blood God Gung Wu while the second punch shattered the 100 times tribulation flash. Half of it was Niu Mansion's contribution while the other half was Ning Fan's contribution. Awesome! 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 Blood God Gung Wu seemed to have gone mad. He continuously unleashed his 100 times tribulation flash at the golden flame giant. Others might not be able to tell that Ning Fan was possessed by Niu Mansion, but how could he not? Niu Mansion was right in front of him. He must give him a good beating before he will stop. Rumble. Rumble. One after another, the 100 times tribulation flash which was enough to kill a weak quasi-saint realm expert was blasted out by Blood God Gung Wu without any regard for his own life. Then, they were easily destroyed by the golden flame giant's iron fists. The ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike that the golden flame giant used was not an ordinary strike. Instead, it was a strike that was fused with the hidden armor skin marks of the heavenly bull race. Its destructive power was far greater than Blood God Gung Wu's 100 times tribulation flash. When the advantage of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was activated, each of the golden flame giant's punches became heavier and heavier. The advantage it had gained was becoming more and more obvious. When the number of consecutive attacks reached around 800, the golden flame giant destroyed 10 light pillars of 100 times tribulation flash with just one punch. Its destructive power was already 10 times greater than that of the 100 times tribulation flash. Boom! It was another 800 times ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Blood God Gung Wu's indescribably massive body of flesh and blood was actually penetrated by the golden flame giant with just one punch. His blood dyed the water area red. He was severely injured. This punch directly hit the vital part of Blood God Gung Wu, greatly weakening his chi and blood, directly reducing it by around 1/10. Blood God Gung Wu let out a miserable shriek. When his shriek reached the ears of the experts in the area, all of them were so shocked that they could not utter a single word. Is this Ning Fan's true strength? Blood God Gung Wu actually did not seem to have any strength to resist his attacks. Lu Cc. Amidst the miserable shriek, Blood God Gung Wu became even more enraged. He released all the millions of leeches in his body and attacked the golden flame giant. Each of the millions of leeches was incomparably strong due to absorbing Blood God Gung Wu's chi and blood. Even the weakest among them had the strength of a true immortal realm expert. Among the army of leeches, there were already more than 100 immortal emperor realm experts. Hundreds of immortal emperor realm leeches leading tens of millions of true immortal realm leeches had an extremely terrifying aura. Even a second-level quasi-sage would feel his scalp go numb when he sees such a scene. Unfortunately, they were not facing a second-level quasi-sage but a third-level ancient great cultivator. 100 immortal emperors, huh? Even I will have to expend some effort to deal with them. Even though the golden flame giant said those words with fear, there was not even a hint of it on his face. There was only Niu Mansion's usual arrogance and Ning Fan's usual calmness. Summon, heavenly bull intestines. Niu Mansion sneered. He actually summoned his intestines and intestines. Then, he swung his iron fists continuously. The ancient devil mountain breaking strike easily killed the leeches one after another. None of the leeches could get close to him. It was because it was not an ordinary ancient devil mountain breaking strike. Instead, it was an enraged ancient great cultivator waving his fists. Even an immortal emperor would die from a single punch from him. Boom boom boom. Tens of thousands of leeches were killed. Their blood was all devoured by the wriggling intestines of the heavenly bull. In less than 20 breaths, Niu Manshan continuously swung his fists hundreds of times and killed all the millions of leeches in front of him. As for the corpses of the leeches, they were all eaten by the heavenly bull intestines. Hiss, the sound of people gasping could be heard from the bottom of the river. No one would be able to remain calm after seeing someone kill 100 immortal emperors within 20 breaths. On the other hand, the golden flame giant had a look of disdain. He cancelled the summon of the intestines and burped in disgust. It's too disgusting. The taste of these leeches is as disgusting as the feces that I have been holding in for millions of years. If it wasn't to replenish my strength, I would never eat these disgusting things even if I was beaten to death. Roar! Blood god Ganwu was enraged by the insulting words of the golden flame giant. In its entire life, it had never been so angry before. The result of its unprecedented anger was that its huge body actually emitted some kind of strange light, beginning some kind of evolution. What's more, Wu-wielding ring evolution. It was rumored that when the Gungwu clan was extremely enraged, they had the chance to evolve into ring-holding Gungwu in a short period of time. As the name suggested, the Gungwu with the holy halo could greatly increase the strength of the Gungwu tribe. Great! The blood god was going to evolve into the legendary ring wielder. With the holy halo, no matter how powerful that Yama kid is, he won't be a match for Lord Blood God. The demi-saints of the foreign races who had studied the Gungwu clan were overjoyed when they saw this. Originally, after witnessing Ning Fan's strength, they no longer had any hope of defeating him. But now, the blood god Gungwu was evolving under extreme anger, which gave them confidence again. The blood-red light gradually separated from the blood god Gungwu's huge body and turned into a blood-red halo in its mouth. Compared to the blood god Gungwu's body, which was as huge as a star domain, this blood-red halo was too small. However, none of the experts here dared to ignore this blood-red halo. It was because this blood-red halo was none other than the saint initiation halo that only an incipient saint could possess. However, it was transformed under Gungwu's extreme anger. Ring-holding Gungwu, huh? This is a little troublesome. The golden flame giant frowned. At the moment when the blood god Gungwu evolved the saint initiation halo, a scarlet beam of light shot out from its mouth and went straight at the golden flame giant. It was still the tribulation flash, which only had one attack method. However, this time, it was not the 100 times tribulation flash. Instead, it was 3,000 times tribulation flash. Such a powerful tribulation flash was definitely not something that the blood god Gungwu could release in his normal state. Under his normal state, 100 times tribulation flash was his limit. However, he was not in his normal state right now. Holding the saint initiation halo in Sun Luo's hands was completely different from holding it in the hands of the blood god Gungwu. Currently, the blood god Gungwu was holding the saint initiation halo. With the help of the halo's power, his tribulation flash was entangled with the power of the third step of samsara, causing the destructive power of the tribulation flash to reach a terrifying 3,000 times. The golden flame giant swung his fists with all his might to resist the attack. He had even activated the defense of the armor runes to its limit. However, he still could not completely reduce the damage of this attack. Pooh! The golden flame giant coughed out a mouthful of blood. Even though he managed to repel the tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger, he still suffered some injuries. Because of these injuries, a hint of ruthlessness flashed across the golden flame giant's eyes. All of a sudden, it became Ning Fan's turn to control his body. The tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger was no doubt terrifying. However, it was nothing compared to the mountain-breaking attack of 3,000 ancient devils. Young man, Gung Wu who holds the halo cannot be defeated by force. Let's retreat for now. With me here, even if we can't defeat Gung Wu who holds the halo, it is still very easy for me to bring all of you out of this place safely. Niu Mansion's consciousness advised Ning Fan. Senior, didn't you want to eat cuttlefish dumplings? Wouldn't it be a great regret if we leave just like this before? Roar! The blood god Gung Wu released another tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger than before. The cross-shaped halos around the golden flame giant suddenly activated. He stuffed a large amount of divine recovery rice into his mouth and swung both of his fists continuously, rushing towards the tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger than before. Boom 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 17 punches. The golden flame giant threw out 17 consecutive ancient devil mountain breaking attacks to block the tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger than before. Even though he managed to block it, he was injured by the power of the tribulation flash once again. The blood god Gung Wu did not give the golden flame giant any time to rest. He quickly followed up with the first 3,000 times stronger tribulation flash and launched his second attack. However, this was exactly what Ning Fan wanted. This is the best way to go. This is the best way to launch consecutive attacks. Only when the attacks are as strong as a storm can the power of the ancient devil mountain breaking attacks be displayed. If the attacks are intermittent, it will break the momentum of the ancient devil mountain breaking attacks and cause the number of attacks to recalculate. If it were those ancient great cultivators with higher spiritual wisdom who could see through the weakness of the ancient devil mountain breaking attacks, they would definitely stop the timing and disturb the golden flame giant at the right time to interrupt the continuous attacks of the golden flame giant. Unfortunately, did the blood god Gung Wu have that kind of intelligence? No. Its intelligence was not even comparable to that of a 3-year-old child. Because of its rage, it even lost the last bit of its ability to think. That was how it evolved into the heaven-defying Gung Wu who was holding the ring. Why would Ning Fan be afraid of a creature without intelligence? Boom boom the golden flame giant was not afraid of the 3,000 times stronger tribulation flash at all. It threw out its iron fists like a storm, trying to destroy all the tribulation flash that was coming at it again and again. Before the 300 punches, the golden flame giant needed 17 punches to block a tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger. After the 600 punches, it only needed 12 punches to block a tribulation flash. After the 800 punches, it only needed 10 punches. After the 1,000 punches, it only needed 9 punches. After the 2,000 punches, it only needed 3 punches. After the 3,000 punches, it only needed 1 punch. The destructive power of a single punch could actually destroy the tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger directly without suffering any injuries. At this moment, even Niu Manshan was afraid of the terrifying aura force of the golden flame giant. However, Ning Fan was not afraid at all. There was only the ancient devil destruction will that penetrated his body and mind. The devil might was like the sky. 3,000 punches was not Ning Fan's limit. From the beginning of the 3,000 punches, the golden flame giant gradually gained the upper hand and began to suppress the blood god Gung Wu. 4,000 punches. 5,000 punches. 6,000 punches. Blood god Gung Wu's tribulation flash that was 3,000 times stronger was no longer a match for the golden flame giant. 7,000 punches. The destructive power of a single punch from the golden flame giant had actually directly destroyed the Genesis Saint ring that blood god Gung Wu had mentioned. That kid Yen Luo actually destroyed the Genesis Saint ring. In this lawless era, is there anything that he can't do? The quasi-saints of the foreign races were all trembling in fear. When the 8,000 ancient devils mountain-breaking attack was launched, the gigantic physical body of the blood god Gung Wu was actually destroyed by a single punch from the golden flame giant. The entire water region was filled with the broken physical body of the blood god Gung Wu and the ancient treasures that fell from his body. The waves of the fist light swept across the area, engulfing all the living beings in the area within the fist light storm. All the quasi-saints of the foreign races were directly sent flying by the fist light storm. All of them spurted out blood while some of the weaker experts of the foreign races directly died under the fist light. At this moment, the heaven-returning grand formation that was struggling to resist the attacks of blood god Gung Wu was also truly shattered by the fist light. All the cultivators of the eastern sky that were under the formation were engulfed by the fist light storm. Not good. This is too much. The golden flame giant's expression changed. He activated the protective golden light around his body to the maximum, enveloping all the cultivators of the eastern sky within it. Fortunately, he acted quickly to protect them. Otherwise, many of these cultivators of the eastern sky would have been engulfed by the fist light storm and died. That was not the result that Ning Fan wanted. It seemed like Ning Fan's control over his power was still not enough. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. This kind of power that could even destroy the blood god Gung Wu was certainly impossible for Ning Fan, who was just an immortal king realm cultivator, to control it freely. If he was not careful, not to mention devouring his own people, there was a great possibility of him devouring his own body. Cici Lu. Cici Lu. Cici Lu Lu Lu. So scary. So scary. This person is a monster. Among the countless pieces of cuttlefish flesh, a cuttlefish true spirit that was only the size of an ant quietly escaped. Ning Fan, of course, noticed the true spirit of the cuttlefish that had escaped. Originally, he wanted to chase after it, but he was stopped by Niu Manshan. Let it go. If the Gung Wu clan fights to the death, they can detonate their true spirits. Their true spirits are different from ordinary people's. The destructive power of their true spirits is 10 times stronger than the detonation of an ordinary true spirit. Therefore, many cultivators of the true world love to capture the true spirits of Gung Wu and use them as explosives. Their destructive power is extremely terrifying. With this Gung Wu's cultivation base, if it is determined to detonate its true spirit, the entire Eastern Realm River will be flattened. The destructive power of its explosion can even reach the Eastern Heaven Immortal World and destroy more than half of it. If you don't have the strength of a Saint Realm expert to control it, it's better not to force it into a dead end. As soon as he heard what Niu Manshan said, Ning Fan was inwardly shocked. How would he still dare to capture the true spirit of the Gung Wu, which was the size of an ant? Once such an inconspicuous true spirit explodes, it could actually flatten the entire Eastern Realm River and destroy half of the Eastern Heaven Immortal World. If Gung Wu is really forced to detonate itself, it would be hard to say whether Ning Fan could keep his own life or not. As soon as the quasi-saints of the foreign races saw blood god Gung Wu explode, who else would dare to stay in this place? Each of them desperately fled the place, afraid that they would be killed by Ning Fan. Today, Ning Fan's devil godlike figure would definitely become a shadow in their Tao hearts in the future and hinder them for the rest of their lives. Waves of exhaustion spread throughout Ning Fan's body. It was not Ning Fan himself who was exhausted but Niu Manshan's power. The battle against blood god Gung Wu might seem simple, but it had completely used up the little amount of power that Niu Manshan had just awakened. The cross-shaped light ring could infinitely replenish Ning Fan's magic power, but it could not replenish Niu Manshan's magic power. After defeating blood god Gung Wu, Ning Fan's cultivation base had already fallen back to its normal state. He could no longer display the strength of an ancient grand cultivation realm expert. How could he still have the strength to kill those quasi-saints of the foreign races? All he could do was to watch them escape. To this, Ning Fan felt regretful, but at the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. If the enemies did not run away but turned around and besieged him, he would have a headache instead. Ning Fan was well aware of his own capabilities. It was all thanks to Niu Manshan's cultivation base that he was able to defeat blood god Gung Wu. Even though he had also contributed quite a lot, it was not the main factor in his victory. He could not even defeat a quasi-saint realm expert. If he were to face 13 quasi-saints of the foreign races at the same time with his own cultivation base, he would certainly not have a good ending. I don't have the ability to chase after those quasi-saints of the foreign races. This is also the most troublesome part. If those quasi-saints of the foreign races see that I did not chase after them, they would probably realize that I no longer have the strength to fight. They will certainly come back soon. Luckily, the immortal sovereign seal has already been repaired. Before they realize what's going on, I have a lot of time to bring the others away from this place. Ning Fan thought to himself. Of course, before I leave this place, there are still two things I need to do. Firstly, I need to take away the countless pieces of Gung Wu's flesh and ancient treasures in this place. Secondly, I need to bring a person away from the bottom of the realm river. Ning Fan withdrew his eternal true body. With a raise of his hand, he took away all the pieces of Gung Wu's flesh and ancient treasures. Then, he brought the group of Eastern Heaven cultivators back to the surface of the water. After sending these Eastern Heaven cultivators out of the water, Ning Fan turned around and prepared to return to the bottom of the realm river of the sixth path. Father, where are you going? Immortal Loli pulled Ning Fan's sleeve, preventing him from returning to the bottom of the realm river. The scenes that happened at the bottom of the water had given her quite a lot of fright. She was not willing to let Ning Fan return to such a dangerous place again. Even though Zhang Yu and the others did not stop Ning Fan, they also looked at him doubtfully, waiting for his explanation. Don't worry. I'm just going to the bottom of the water to pick up a person. I won't fight against those quasi-saints of the foreign races anymore. Ning Fan smiled and answered. Then, he patted Immortal Loli's head and dived into the water. After hearing Ning Fan's words, Zhang Yu immediately curled her lips in annoyance. Even if she used her toes to think, she would already know that the reason why Ning Fan took the risk to go back to the bottom of the water was to pick up a woman, not a man. She was so lustful that she could even throw away her life. She was not convinced by anyone but Ning Fan. As for Xiang Bozi and the other old monsters of the Eastern Heaven, they smiled knowingly to express their understanding. Even heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beautiful woman. It seems like the hero who saved the Eastern Heaven is going to go to the bottom of the water to pick up his beauty. Hee hee. Such a romantic affair will surely become the topic of conversation among the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven very soon. As for the issue of safety, they were not worried that Ning Fan would be in danger after returning to the water because they had already begun to believe in Ning Fan's strength. In their eyes, Ning Fan was a great cultivator from the ancient times who hid his strength well. Or perhaps, he had some kind of method that allowed him to attain the strength of a great cultivator within a short period of time. They did not need to worry about Ning Fan's safety at all. The ones who should be worried should be those quasi-saints of the foreign races, but I'm still a little worried about Father. Others might not be able to see it but Xian can. The power of the ancient great cultivator that Father used just now doesn't feel right. It's definitely not his own power. That power should have already been used up during the battle with the giant cuttlefish. This time, Father has returned to the bottom of the water. What if he encounters danger? What should we do? The other cultivators of the Eastern Heaven were rejoicing for surviving the calamity, but Immortal Loli could not bring herself to smile. She was worried about her father. All right. You don't have to worry about that little cuttlefish. He's so cunning. Why would he take the risk? He must have a well-thought-out plan for this trip. Even if he doesn't have enough power, he can still protect himself. We are the ones who should be worried. All of us are more or less injured, especially the few quasi-saints who suffered the most serious injuries. If we don't hurry back to the nearest checkpoint for treatment, I'm afraid some of the quasi-saints will suffer a drop in their cultivation base due to their severe injuries. But even if Father is fine, I'm still worried. I feel that Father will bring another woman back. Xian is not happy. Xian hates it when others snatch Father away from her. Humph. Xian isn't the only one who is unhappy. Sister Zhang Yu is also unhappy. No. What's there to be unhappy about? He can find as many women as he wants. What does it have to do with me? Zhang Yu and the others had guessed one thing correctly. The reason why Ning Fan returned to the bottom of the sixth path was indeed to pick up a certain woman. However, this matter had nothing to do with his lust. Ning Fan had received Aphrodite's kindness. What he did was just to give her a favor. Of course, if it was not convenient, he might not have gone to save Aphrodite. As a matter of fact, he had long heard that Aphrodite was imprisoned in the death prison of the foreign race. This was the reason why he did not save her even after so long. He did owe her a favor, but he had already returned the favor of reminding her that day. It was Aphrodite's wish to return to the foreign race. Ning Fan complied with her wish and let her go. However, because of that, Aphrodite was imprisoned in the death prison of the foreign race. Aphrodite was the one who wanted to return to the bottom of the water. All the consequences should be borne by her. That was true. However, if Ning Fan could save Aphrodite along the way, he would not mind saving her. In the past, there would definitely be quasi-saints of the foreign race guarding around the death prison where Aphrodite was imprisoned. How would he have the ability to save her? However, it was different now. At this moment, all the quasi-saints of the foreign race were busy running for their lives like stray dogs. How would they have the time to care about such a trivial matter like Aphrodite? Instead, it gave Ning Fan a chance to take advantage of the situation. Somewhere in the sixth path, the group of quasi-saints of the foreign race who were running for their lives in a hurry suddenly stopped. "Great Divine Priest, why did you stop?" someone asked with uncertainty. "Not good. We've been tricked. We've been running for 1 hour but that Yama kid actually didn't catch up to us. There seems to be something wrong with this," the Great Divine Priest said with an unpleasant expression. "Great Divine Priest, are you saying that after that Yama kid defeated Blood God Gung Wu, he no longer has the strength to face our joint attacks? That's why he didn't chase after us?" Some other quasi-saints of the foreign race guessed after hearing what the Great Divine Priest said. "I didn't expect that Yama kid didn't even chase after us. We've been running blindly for 1 hour in fear. It's really embarrassing. If this matter is spread out, what glory do we, the Z-Way immortal cultivators, have?" someone said angrily. "Since that Yama kid no longer has the strength to fight us, why don't we go back and kill him?" someone suggested. "No, it's not right. The problem is that we only know that Yama kid doesn't have the strength to fight us. However, we don't know how much strength he has left. It's certain that he doesn't have much strength left. However, it's hard to tell how much strength he has left. Perhaps he still has the strength to kill 7 quasi-saints. Perhaps he still has the strength to tear 5 quasi-saints apart. Perhaps he still has the strength to kill 3 quasi-saints. Perhaps he won't even be able to kill 1. Or perhaps he might die if he fights with his life on the line, but he can still kill all of us. Before we get to the bottom of this matter, we might pay a heavy price for our recklessness if we go back rashly." The Great Divine Priest rejected. "But this is a rare opportunity for that Yama kid to be weak. If he finishes recovering, none of us will be a match for him. He's an ancient fiend god that could even kill Blood God Gung Wu. If we wait for him to finish recovering and come back to kill us Z-Way immortal cultivators, I'm afraid none of us will be able to survive." "Humph. He wouldn't dare. If he's forced into a corner, Lord Blood God's true spirit will self-destruct and he won't have a good ending either. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Lord Blood God's true spirit escape. But this is a rare opportunity for that Yama kid to be weak, he might have already escaped from the water domain. Who knows, I still think that we should go back and take a look. Even if we don't fight him, we should at least try to find out more about him." Running away in panic without knowing anything is not the usual style of the Z-Way immortal cultivators. "That's right. We should still go back and investigate. Firstly, we should investigate this person's background. If he's already gone, we should also investigate the restoration of the Immortal Emperor's seal to see if there's any possibility of destroying it. Also, the flesh of Lord Blood God that was smashed is an excellent nourishment. I wonder if that Yama kid has taken all of it." As the Great Divine Priest of the foreign race gave the order, all the quasi-saints of the foreign race turned around and began to return to the ruins of the Heavenly Shadow Clan. While the quasi-saints of the foreign race were busy dealing with this matter, Ning Fan quietly swam towards another direction, the place where the divine temple of the foreign race was located in the sixth path. With Ning Fan's intelligence network, he easily found out that the death prison of the foreign race was located in the divine temple. To the foreign race, the condemned prisoners in the death prison were the best sacrificial offerings. They could offer them to blood god Gung Wu to consume through the sacrificial offerings. The sacrificial offerings in the death prison were of great importance. Normally, no one was allowed to get close to the death prison. Even quasi-saints would need the great divine priest's order to get close to the death prison. The death prison was heavily guarded. Usually, there would be more than one quasi-saint and more than 10 immortal emperors guarding it. However, it was different now. Due to the earth-shattering chi of the battle that spread out from the ruins of the Heavenly Shadow clan, all the immortal emperors of the foreign race who did not know the truth rushed towards the location of the Heavenly Shadow clan. This was the time when the guards of the divine temple of the foreign race were at their weakest. It was also the best time for Ning Fan to save them. There were more than 1,000 cells in the death prison. Afro was locked in one of the cells in the deepest part of the prison. The four walls of the cell were engraved with runes that sealed the water elemental power. To the water clan, it had an incomparably strong suppressive effect. Afro was expressionless. She just stared at the walls of the cell. However, if one were to take a closer look, they would find a trace of bitterness hidden deep within her eyes. She shouldn't have come back. She shouldn't have come back. Afro did not expect that Ning Fan had unknowingly saved her life when he captured her that day. During the days when she was captured, most of the merman warriors were used as sacrificial offerings and fed to blood god Gung Wu. The great divine priest had lied to her. The great divine priest had clearly promised that she alone would be enough as a sacrificial offering. However, in reality, other than the trusted subordinates of the great divine priest, everyone else was the sacrificial offering. Not a single innocent merman could survive. They were all dead. Her clansmen were all dead. The few male mermen who survived also became traitors of the merman race. They sold their souls to the great divine priest to save their lives. I initially thought that my return could save all the people of the merman race. However, it turns out that I can't even protect myself. Soon, I will also become a sacrificial offering to blood god Gung Wu. My clansmen are all dead and I'm the only one left. Perhaps it's better for me to die, but why do I feel unresigned? I want to avenge my clansmen, be it the great divine priest or blood god Gung Wu. They are all existences that I can't defeat even if I use all my strength. However, I don't want to give up. I can't accept it. The remains of my clansmen were eaten by blood god Gung Wu. I will never be able to forget how miserable they were. Afro smiled bitterly. So what if I can't accept it? I can't even escape from the prison, let alone take revenge. The funny thing was that when the great divine priest saw that she possessed the karma seed of self and had a bright future, he was actually willing to help her get rid of her identity as a sacrificial offering and recruit her to deal with Ning Fan. When she found out that all of her clansmen had been sacrificed, how could she still help the great divine priest? Especially that matter which involved dealing with Ning Fan. It was even more impossible for her to agree to it. When she met her other self, she shared a lot of memories and also the complicated feelings that the other woman had towards Ning Fan. Those feelings were unreal. They were built on countless nightmares. There were only physical collisions and no soul communication. But no matter what, Ning Fan's figure was engraved in the depths of her heart. Whether it was her in this world or her other self in the other world, Ning Fan remained in her heart. Afro waved her palm and took out half of the golden arrow. That day, she broke the golden arrow and gave half of it to Ning Fan while keeping the other half for herself. She promised to repay Ning Fan's kindness. Unfortunately, she could not even protect herself anymore. She probably would not have the chance to repay that kindness anymore. That's a great kindness from the karma seed of self. If you have any difficulties, as long as you don't harm the interests of the Z-Way immortal cultivators, bring this arrow to me. I can help you do one thing. You've shown me great kindness. If I have the potential to become a sage, the great divine priest might show mercy to my clan. This kindness is very heavy and I must repay it. Meng Lang, no, Ning Fan, goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, I heard that your clan members are all dead. The thing that you want to protect doesn't seem to exist anymore. A voice suddenly resounded from outside the prison. At the same time, it was accompanied by the blood-curdling screams of the immortal King Realm guards. Afro's heart shuddered. How could she not remember this voice that came from two different worlds? It's Ning Fan. But why is Ning Fan here? He's the white-robed Yama that everyone in the Z-Way immortal cultivators wanted to kill. Because of the restriction of the prison, Afro could not sense the chi of the great battle outside. Naturally, she did not know what had happened outside. She suddenly stood up and held on to the iron bars of the prison. However, she was bounced off by the runes on the bars. She looked at the outside of the iron bars in disbelief. Ning Fan parted the blood-stained water and walked towards her while stepping on the corpses of the guards. The ocean-defying sword slashed open the prison. It was not just the prison. The entire divine palace of the foreign race was slashed open by Ning Fan. This was the most sacred place of the Z-Way immortal cultivators in the eastern boundary river. However, it was destroyed by Ning Fan. This time, the Z-Way immortal cultivators were going to be nailed to the pillar of shame by Ning Fan forever. Why did you come here? Afro's eyes turned red. She did not know what she was feeling at the moment. She was betrayed by her closest comrades but was saved by her former enemy. What does this mean? What does this mean? Since you are so unwilling, don't wait for your death here. Even though you are a member of the foreign race, you can still live in the Eastern Heaven in the future for my sake. Eastern Heaven, I. Afro remained silent. She had never eaten an Eastern Heaven cultivator before. Back then, after she got out of the water, she was captured by Ning Fan before she could even kill the Eastern Heaven cultivators. Theoretically, she did not have any blood feud with the Eastern Heaven cultivators. However, she was a descendant of the Z-Way immortal cultivators. Could she live together with the descendants of Z-Do? Was it possible to betray one's own ancestors and one's own beliefs? I'll give you 3 breaths. If you hesitate any longer, I will capture you and lock you up in the profound Een world again to take your tears. Ning Fan said angrily. Even though he was certain that the quasi-saints of the foreign races would not return to the divine palace in a short period of time, he did not dare to waste too much time here. What if some of the quasi-saints returned earlier than expected? Then it would not be easy for him to get out. Locked in the profound Een world is fine. Anyway, I don't want to live in the Eastern Heaven. As if she had recalled some erotic memories, Afro's cheeks flushed. In other words, you would rather be locked up in the profound Een world and be humiliated by me than live in the Eastern Heaven peacefully, right? The corner of Ning Fan's mouth twitched. Could it be that Afro has masochistic tendencies? Was it accidentally developed by him? He had misunderstood Afro. In fact, Afro just did not know how to face the ordinary cultivators of the Eastern Heaven. In the past, she had always treated them as enemies. Now, it was difficult for her to change her mind in a short period of time. However, Ning Fan did not know that. He had never come into contact with a woman who had masochistic tendencies. He was thinking about how he should arrange things to satisfy this woman. Since this woman wants to continue living in the profound Een world, then let her stay there. The profound Een world is so huge. It doesn't make a difference if she stays there. The problem is, how should he stay there? Senior Nyo, you have a lot of experience. Have you ever heard of such a woman who has masochistic tendencies? Ning Fan asked in the depths of his consciousness. Currently, Nyo Mansion's consciousness was weak. How could he have the mood to chat with Ning Fan? When he heard Ning Fan's question, he answered perfunctorily without thinking. Oh, I've heard of this kind of woman before. Each and every one of them is a little demoness who likes to torture people. They won't eat the candy given to them and will only eat the whip given to them. If you want to make them happy, you definitely can't treat them well. You have to be like this. Nyo Manshan talked nonsense for a while. Then, due to his weak consciousness, he fell into a deep sleep. Therefore, he had no idea what happened later because of his nonsense. Also, he did not want to be responsible for it. As a result, when Afro stayed in the profound Yin world again, she was tied to the bed by Ning Fan with a rope. Why did you tie me up? And you even tied me up in such a shameful manner. Afro subconsciously wanted to resist. However, after receiving Ning Fan's kindness of saving her life, she already had the thought of repaying him with her body. Even if Ning Fan treats her like that, she would just think that Ning Fan has a strange fetish and she would not resist. She would only endure it shyly. She actually didn't object to me tying her up. It seems like Senior Nyo didn't lie to me. Women who have masochistic tendencies indeed have strange fetishes. She actually likes to be tied up by others, Ning Fan criticized inwardly. However, he still put on a friendly smile on his face and said to Afro, "You've been locked up in the cell for a long time. Have a good rest here today. I still have something to do. If you need anything, you can send me a voice transmission. My mind is connected to the profound Yin world. After I hear your voice, I will naturally come and satisfy your needs. Don't worry, Mississippi. I won't discriminate against women who have special fetishes." As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, his figure flashed and flew out of the profound Yin world, leaving Afro alone. Ning Fan actually said that she has special fetishes. Ning Fan is the one who has special fetishes. Which normal man would tie a weak woman up on the bed? Pervert. He's too perverted. Afro criticized Ning Fan's behavior inwardly. Of course, Ning Fan was unaware of all of these. As soon as he saved Afro, he sensed a few quasi-saints rushing back to the divine palace with the help of the treasure-searching compass. Those people must have sensed that the divine palace had been destroyed. That's why they were rushing back. Since there were quasi-saints of the foreign races rushing back to help, how would Ning Fan dare to stay in this place for a long time? He left in a hurry. Of course, he did not have the leisure to consider Afro's feelings. The pitiful Afro was tied to the bed for a very, very long time. Chapter 1160. The quasi-saints of the foreign races returned to the ruins of the Heavenly Shadow clan. After inspecting the sealed tower, they came to a conclusion. The immortal sovereign seal that was 99% intact was no longer possible to be destroyed. In this way, the second invasion plan that the foreign races had prepared for tens of millions of years after invading the Eastern Heaven previously had finally become a piece of paper. The seal had been repaired and it was stronger than any time in the past hundreds of millions of years. For a long time to come, not only would the Celestial Emperor stage beings be unable to come out of the water to wreak havoc, but even the low-grade beings would find it extremely difficult to come out of the water. The chaos of the foreign races in the eastern boundary river was finally settled. In this war that had lasted for tens of years, Ning Fan's contribution was undoubtedly the greatest. Slaughtering an immortal emperor realm expert, killing a half-step saint realm expert, subduing a lightning infant, repairing the seal, destroying the blood god and making it even darker. News of Ning Fan's latest achievements spread to the eastern heaven like snowflakes. Countless people were shocked by Ning Fan's latest achievements. Ning Fan was actually so powerful that he could even destroy an ancient great cultivator. Many people began to discuss this in private. More of them began to frantically inquire about the details of this war. Ning Fan was not aware of all these. Even if he knew, he would not care. Once again, he returned to the surface of the sixth stream of water. He stepped on the water and bathed in the sunset scenery of the boundary river. Looking at the immortal sovereign seal that was almost undamaged, he let out a long sigh of relief. The chaos of the foreign races in the eastern boundary river has finally come to an end. I wonder if the chaos in the other three great heavenly worlds has also been settled. Ning Fan looked at the direction of the northern heaven along the sixth stream of water and pondered. Crack! Suddenly, Ning Fan felt a tearing pain in his sea of consciousness. It was Nyo Manchin's true spirit that was separating from his body bit by bit. Under the intense pain, Ning Fan could barely stand still and directly fell to the surface of the water. He endured the pain and slowly separated from Niu Manshan's true spirit. Due to his weakness, Niu Manshan was lucky enough to fall into a deep sleep, avoiding having to share half of the pain with Ning Fan. In this way, Ning Fan almost had to bear all the pain of his true spirit being separated. The entire process of the true spirit separation lasted for a full 8 hours. The sun set below the surface of the river and the dusk turned into night. After a long time, Ning Fan finally exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi and forced out a true spirit that was countless times smaller from his sea of consciousness. Niu Manshan's true spirit. The size of Niu Manshan's true spirit was different from the size it had when it launched a sneak attack on Ning Fan. Currently, Niu Manshan's true spirit could no longer maintain the size of a human due to the exhaustion of its power. Just like the true spirit of Gung Wu which fled in a sorry state, both of them had shrunk to the size of an ant. Niu Manshan, who was as small as an ant, was sleeping soundly in Ning Fan's palm. His breathing was weak, but his snores were very loud and full of energy. Did Niu Manshan really run out of energy? He's actually so full of energy, however, he did not intend to wake Niu Manshan up. Instead, he took out a few 9th Revolution Emperor-grade healing pills, extracted their medicinal power and injected them into Niu Manshan's true spirit body. These 9 Revolutions Emperor pills were the treasures in Gung Wu's body. They were seized by Ning Fan after the battle. Now, they were the most suitable to be used to treat Niu Manshan. If it weren't for these pills, Niu Manshan would have to sleep for at least several hundred years before he could wake up. However, after using pills, Niu Manshan's ant true spirit grew bigger and bigger. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, it had grown to the size of a fist. After another incense stick's time, the true spirit had returned to the size of an adult and had finally awakened. At least you still have a conscience. You know how to help me recover my strength. You're really worth teaching. Niu Manshan stretched his body comfortably. Then, he took a deep breath of the fresh air on the surface of the Boundary River. It's so refreshing and nostalgic. This is the taste of freedom. How many years has it been since I last breathed the air on the surface of the water? It's almost 1 billion years. I've finally left the damned bottom of the Boundary River. According to our agreement, I've already brought Senior out of the sealed tower. I hope that Senior can also keep your promise and won't hurt any Purple Dipper Immortal Realm cultivators recklessly in this life. Ning Fan looked at Niu Manshan who was filled with happiness and sighed deeply. Air was something that those who had it would not cherish. Sure enough, some things had to be lost before one could understand how precious they were. Don't worry. I've already sworn the Great Karma Oath. How can I possibly go back on my word? Alright. Our deal is done. Quickly give me your broken sword. I'm going to depart for the Western Heaven now. Depart for the Western Heaven now? Why are you in such a hurry? Ning Fan was surprised. However, he still kept his promise and passed the fate-severing broken sword which contained the lotus sword intent to Niu Manshan. Hee. Aren't I in a hurry to go to the Western Heaven to see my old lover? I mean, to go to the Western Heaven and challenge all the major Buddhist sects. I've been guarding the sealed tower for nearly 1 billion years. During this long period of time, I couldn't even find a single opponent. Sigh. The Western Heaven is still better. Each of those Buddhist sects is unfathomable. I'm sure I'll be able to find quite a number of opponents who are on par with me in the Western Heaven. Niu Manshan pretended to be serious and said. The corner of his mouth twitched. Inwardly, he complained, Old Uncle Niu, you've already spilled the beans, alright? Stop hiding it. The truth is that you're in a hurry to go to the Western Heaven to see your old lover. I wonder if she's still in this world. After all, 1 billion years have passed. Since ancient times, how many cultivators could live for more than 1 billion years? It's difficult. It's just too difficult. Niu Manshan suddenly thought of something and began to sigh. Ning Fan did not know who the old lover that Niu Manshan was talking about was. Naturally, he would not say anything to comfort him. He just looked at Niu Manshan with a poker face and let him sigh for a long time. In the end, Niu Manshan glared at Ning Fan. Old senior is sighing here. Don't you know how to comfort him? Boring. Really boring. Alright. Let's part ways here. You can go and find your companions in the Eastern Heaven. I'm going to the Western Heaven. The waterway that leads to the Western Heaven should be the third waterway. Before Niu Manshan could finish his words, his entire being had already shrunk into a ray of light between heaven and earth and disappeared without a trace. Senior, wait a moment. Don't you want the cuttlefish dumpling and your adopted son? Niu Manshan acted in a hurry. He left too quickly. Before Ning Fan could even open his mouth, he swallowed his words helplessly. Niu Manshan had clearly asked him to help him find his adopted son. He even wanted to use more cuttlefish meat to make cuttlefish dumpling. However, he actually left just like that before he could do all these things. Sure enough, compared to old lovers, adopted son, and cuttlefish dumpling, none of them are important, right? Ning Fan waved his hand helplessly and rested for a while. Then, he stood up from the water's surface and planned to leave. Unfortunately, before he could leave, there was another ray of light flashing towards him from afar. Who else could it be other than Niu Manshan, who had returned using the same route he came from? Niu Manshan returned to Ning Fan's front with an ashen face. He was extremely unhappy, as if he had encountered something bad. Senior, why did you come back? Aren't you in a hurry to go to the Western Heaven? Ning Fan was surprised and asked. I can't go anymore. The world passage to the Western Heaven has actually been sealed by another immortal sovereign. Niu Manshan said in a displeased tone. The seal of another immortal sovereign? What do you mean? Ning Fan's expression darkened. Humph. You'll understand after you see it with your own eyes. Quickly help me think if there's any way to open the world passage. Niu Manshan waved his hand. A ray of light swept over and carried Ning Fan away from his original spot. It was the unique escaping technique of the Heavenly Bull clan. Its speed was unimaginably fast. With Ning Fan's maximum speed, he would need at least 1 to 2 days to fly from the 6th water path to the 3rd water path. However, Niu Manshan only needed a few hundred breaths to fly from the 6th water path to the 3rd water path. The speed of an ancient great cultivator had actually reached such a level. Ning Fan was certain that his speed was definitely comparable to some weaker quasi-saints. However, compared to Niu Manshan, his speed was simply insignificant. Sure enough, there was still a huge gap between him and a true expert of the 2nd step. In front of an ancient great cultivator, his insignificant speed might not even be enough to escape with his life. Niu Manshan brought Ning Fan to the White Tiger Pass of the 3rd water path. This was the last pass of the 3rd water path. If they go further, it would be the long world passage that leads to the Western Heaven. Ning Fan did not even participate in the operation to recover the White Tiger Pass. Naturally, he did not go to the West Heaven Realm Passage, which was further behind the White Tiger Pass. If Niu Manshan did not bring Ning Fan all the way to the end of the West Heaven Realm Passage, Ning Fan would not even know that the entrance of the West Heaven Realm Passage had already been sealed by a massive sealing power. In between the water and the sky, there was a sealing power that emitted a desolate and decaying qi. It had sealed the entrance of the West Heaven Realm Passage. Even with Niu Manshan's strength, he actually could not break the seal and go to the Western Heaven. Ning Fan's eyes were covered with green light. The more he looked at the desolate seal, the more shocked he became. This is not an ordinary seal. This is an immortal sovereign realm seal. It was created by another 4th step immortal sovereign other than immortal sovereign Zido. Which immortal sovereign sealed the West Heaven Realm Passage? Ning Fan sucked in a breath of cold air. He did not expect that when he used immortal sovereign Zido's seal to deal with the foreign races in the World River, someone also secretly set up another immortal sovereign seal and sealed the West Heaven Realm Passage. This is the seal of the primordial ancient immortal sovereign. However, it was not done by the immortal sovereign himself. Not even a fourth step immortal sovereign has the ability to interfere with the illusory dream world that immortal sovereign Zido set up. I'm afraid that someone in the illusory dream world obtained the seal bestowed by the primordial ancient immortal sovereign through some unknown channel and used its power to seal the West Heaven Realm passage. Niu Manshan said. Primordial ancient immortal sovereign. It was not Ning Fan's first time hearing the name of this immortal sovereign. He frowned deeply. He really wanted to know why the seal of the primordial ancient immortal sovereign would appear here and seal the West Heaven Realm passage. What he was sure of was that the Dark Race and the Devil Conferral Summit were definitely behind the chaos in the World River. Could it be that the cultivators of the primordial ancient immortal domain were also behind this? Little friend, you're quite capable. Do you have any way to destroy this seal? It was Niu Manshan's first time addressing Ning Fan in such a polite manner. His purpose was actually to meet his old lover. Senior, you must be joking. The seal of the primordial ancient immortal sovereign in this place is fully intact. How could I possibly have the ability to destroy it? Ning Fan smiled bitterly. 99% of the Purple Dipper seal could already seal more than 10 quasi-saints of the foreign races to death in the East World River. A fully intact seal of the primordial ancient immortal sovereign was definitely not something Ning Fan could destroy. You have the eyesight of a cultivator at the second level of the Heaven Being realm. You can't even see the weakness of this seal? Niu Manshan asked in surprise. Ning Fan was not too surprised that Niu Manshan could see through his second level of the Heaven Being realm. He shook his head and said. The seal of this place has no weakness. If we want to destroy it, we can only wait for the seal's power to be depleted to a certain extent over a long period of time. Not good. Ning Fan suddenly thought of something. His face darkened and he said to Niu Manshan. Let's not talk about the seal of the West Heaven Realm passage for now. Senior, please bring me to the sixth path to find out what's going on. The sixth path connects to the Northern Heaven. I wonder if there's also such an ancient seal on the North Heaven Realm passage. Niu Manshan nodded his head and activated his ability. In just a few hundred breaths' time, he brought Ning Fan back to the sixth path and went straight to the entrance of the North Heaven Realm passage at the end of the sixth path. As Ning Fan had expected, the entrance of the North Heaven Realm passage was indeed sealed by the ancient seal. Moreover, the power of the seal here was actually a few times stronger than the one at the entrance of the West Heaven Realm passage. Let's go to the ninth path. Ning Fan said again. Niu Manshan followed Ning Fan's instructions and brought him to the entrance of the South Heaven Realm passage. This place was also sealed by the ancient seal. The power of the seal was not as strong as the entrance of the North Heaven Realm passage. It was only comparable to the entrance of the West Heaven Realm. Even so, it was enough to prevent ancient great cultivators from passing through. This is troublesome. Ning Fan's face darkened. After a long while, he let out a long sigh. There were people whom Ning Fan cared about in the East Heaven. Likewise, there were also people in the North Heaven. According to rumors, the chaos in the North Heaven was the most serious among the four heavens. Ning Fan was very worried about the safety of Bei Xiaoman and the other women. Settling the chaos in the Eastern Heaven realm was supposed to be a joyous event. Ning Fan planned to go to the North Heaven as soon as possible after settling the chaos in the Eastern Heaven. Initially, he thought that as long as he wiped out the foreign races in the Eastern Heaven realm, he would be able to clear the path to the North Heaven. However, he did not expect that the mastermind who controlled the chaos in the Eastern Heaven realm this time had actually set up a second layer of protection at the entrances of the world passages of the various heaven realms, the seal of the ancient immortal sovereign. In this way, even if the cultivators of the West, South, and East heavens could calm the chaos in their own realms, they would not be able to pass through the seal and support the other heaven realms. The four heavens were completely cut off. The Purple Dipper seal separated the foreign races from the cultivators of the four heavens, while the ancient immortal seal also separated the four heavens. I saw the future. A terrifying future. The four heavens will be isolated. There will be a great war in the North Heaven. After that, the Spirit King will die. He will die in the hands of the Western demon ancestor. Ling heir who was eaten by the Spirit King will also die. Everything was going exactly as Nalan Zi's prophecy. Isolated. Isolated. The word isolated was not referring to the obstruction of the foreign races. Instead, it was referring to the ancient immortal seal that separated the four heavens. Ah! Who was the one who placed such a hateful seal at the entrance of the world road? How am I going to head to the western heaven now? Abbess, it's not that I don't want to look for you. It's just that the immortal sovereign's seal is too powerful. Niu Manshan let out a long sigh. Ning Fan's expression, on the other hand, was filled with uncertainty. No one knew what he was thinking. The seal of the immortal sovereign of the ancient immortal sovereign was not something that a mere immortal king like him could break. However, he must go to the northern heaven. The appearance of the ancient immortal seal further highlighted the abnormality of the chaos in the Four Heavens World River. The water behind the scenes was too deep. As the center of the chaos, how dangerous would the northern heaven be? So, I have to find another way. Ning Fan thought to himself. Ning Fan could only think of one method that could allow him to travel freely in the Four Heavens while ignoring the ancient immortal seal. The ancient immortal devil cavity. The ancient immortal seal could give ancient great cultivators like Niu Manshan a headache. However, in the past, Daoist Xianwei who was at the half-saint realm could withstand the ancient immortal seal and directly open the devil cavity to fly from the northern heaven to the eastern heaven. If Ning Fan could cultivate the ancient devil cavity, it would certainly not be difficult for him to go to the northern heaven. Even if it was just the half-baked ancient devil cavity of Daoist Xianwei, it would be enough for him. Unfortunately, he did not have the half-baked devil cavity cultivation method in his hands. All he had was the authentic cultivation method that was unimaginably harsh. How troublesome. Fine, fine, fine. I won't go to the western heaven for the time being. I don't believe that the person behind the scenes will still seal the passage of the world forever after the chaos in the Four Heavens ends. Once they achieve their goal, they will definitely open the passage. I will just wait for the time being. Niu Manshan said helplessly. Niu Manshan could wait but Ning Fan could not. However, Ning Fan did not say anything about this matter. His expression was filled with worries, which made Niu Manshan criticize him in his heart. Hey, little brat. It's me who can't see little mistress, alright? It's me who should be crying, alright? Why are you acting like me? You look like you have just eaten shit and your parents have just died. It's not like you can't see little mistress. Could it be that you can empathize with my pain? Niu Manshan was touched and patted Ning Fan's shoulder. The corner of Ning Fan's mouth twitched. He swatted away Niu Manshan's dirty hand and ignored him. Nonsense. It would be strange if he paid attention to Niu Manshan who doesn't know how to chat. Oh, that's right. I seem to have asked you to help me find a foster son. You finally remembered about your son? Oh, there's also the cuttlefish dumpling. After we return, I will make you a delicious meal of Fusang Immortal Country. Unfortunately, Ning Fan who was currently filled with worries did not want to reply to Niu Manshan's words. I will stay in the eastern heaven for the time being. Come, come, let me live in your body again, no. Ning Fan finally opened his mouth and rejected Niu Manshan's suggestion. What a joke. His divine physical body had so many secrets. Previously, he allowed Niu Manshan to possess his body because he wanted to bring him out of the sealed tower without anyone knowing. There was no need for that now. Why should he let Niu Manshan live in his body? What if he spied on his divine secret? What if he spied on his intimate relationship with his wives? Humph. What a petty man. If you don't want to live in my body, so be it. Do you think I really like living in your body? You have an aura similar to Wu Xiaoyu. Aren't you just trying to conceal your bloodline of the Taitsung tribulation spirit? Niu Manshan said self-righteously. Ning Fan raised his eyebrows and thought to himself that Niu Manshan's eyesight was really sharp. He had already deliberately concealed his identity but Niu Manshan was still able to see through his identity. Unfortunately, Nyo Man Shan did not seem to be able to see through his identity as an ancient divine being. After all, ancient divine beings were things from the previous cultivation era. It was not strange that Nyo Man Shan did not know about them. That was also the reason why Ning Fan could not let Nyo Man Shan continue living in his body. Otherwise, even if Nyo Man Shan did not know about the ancient divine beings, he would be able to see through some problems sooner or later. Ancient divine beings were the biggest taboo in the world. Compared to this, the exposure of his identity as the Taitsung tribulation spirit was not important at all. Don't worry. I can see that you are not of the same race as the members of the Jia clan in the mortal world. Jia clan's bloodline is just a subsidiary of many bloodlines. Considering that you are the successor of ancient chaos, it is not strange at all for you to have 4 types of bloodlines. Ancient God, Ancient Demon, Ancient Devil and Jia clan's bloodline. You are even stronger than your master by cultivating 4 types of bloodlines at the same time. No wonder you possess the terrifying magic power of 13,500 Tribulation's realm even though you have just reached the Immortal King realm. If your cultivation base in all 4 types of bloodlines reaches the level of ancient great cultivators, who in the Dharma ending era would be your match? I'm afraid you would even be able to kill saints who are at a higher level than you. Nyo Man Shan clicked his tongue and praised. Then, he changed the topic. However, isn't the purity of your magic power a little too low? Purity of magic power. It was Ning Fan's first time hearing about this concept. Hee. One look and I can tell that you don't have the proper inheritance of an ancient clan. You don't even know this concept of cultivation. Why do you think cultivators in the Dharma ending era are weaker than ancient cultivators of the same level? The decline of the Dharma ending era divine abilities is one of the reasons. But the most important reason is that the purity of the magic power of cultivators in the Dharma ending era is far inferior to ancient cultivators. Your 13,500 tribulation magic power is more than enough to scare cultivators in the Dharma ending era. It is also enough to fool half-baked ancient cultivators. However, if you face a true expert among the ancient cultivators, even if the quantity of their magic power is not as good as yours, they can still crush you with the advantage of the purity of their magic power. Sigh. You won't understand this no matter how much I explain it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go back quickly. I am hungry. So you want me to go back to eat squid balls? However, a ray of light flashed between the sky and the water. The 2 of them immediately disappeared from where they stood. A few hundred breaths later, the 2 of them found the mountain pass where Zhang Yu and the others were at, the 6th path, the Black Tortoise Mountain Pass. Ning Fan's original intention was to let Nyo Man Shan show himself openly and introduce him to the cultivators of the Eastern Sky who had contributed the most in defeating Blood God Gung Wu. However, Nyo Man Shan was unwilling to expose himself in front of others. On this point, he had the same stubbornness as Aphrodite. He could promise not to kill Zido's descendants recklessly, but he was unwilling to get along with them and meet them. In the end, he still had a trace of resentment towards immortal sovereign Zido. You can go in by yourself. Don't tell anyone about my existence. I can just stay outside the Black Tortoise Mountain Pass. Nyo Mansion's figure became fainter and fainter. He hid his figure between the sky and the water, hiding in the boundless night. Before his figure disappeared, there was an indescribable loneliness and desolation. If he was unwilling to do so, even the quasi-sage of the Eastern Sky would not know that he was here. He could hide his body but he could not hide the loneliness in his heart. The Heavenly Bull clan had been annihilated. All the members of the clan had died for Zido's immortal cultivation. Only him, the last member of the Heavenly Bull clan, was left. He was living in the vast mortal world without any kin. How lonely was that? Ning Fan let out a sigh. He could understand the emotions that Nyo Man Shan was carrying. However, he could not personally experience that kind of heaviness. If there was a day when he lost everything, he would also be alone and would also be at a loss towards the secular world. Perhaps, he would be like Nyo Manshan and have such a lonely back view. The people of the world only knew that each and every one of Zido's immortal cultivation was incomparably heroic and heroic. Who could understand the bitterness and sacrifice behind it? Just like the chaos in the Realm River this time. Even though the casualties of the Eastern Skies cultivators were not as severe as expected because of Ning Fan's intervention, there were still a large number of cultivators who died in the battle. When a human dies, it is like a lamp that goes out. The samsara wheel will be blown and reignited. When an immortal dies, it is like a thought that scatters, never to return in this life. Ning Fan remained silent and activated the Fuli spirit wheel in his palm. The number of heroic souls that he could absorb was just a small number after all. Most of them died outside of his ability. Daddy is back. Suddenly, a joyful figure flew out from the Black Tortoise Mountain Pass and went into Ning Fan's arms. Following that, one figure after another flew out from the boundless night sky with a look of concern on their faces. Zhang Yu, Little Demoness, Ouyang Nuan, Yao Qingyun, Old Wu, Zhu Er, Heavenly Crow Dog, Earth Devil, Iron Crow, Emperor Tsang, Luo Ho, LV1, Yun Lei, haha. What did I say? Brother Ning will definitely be fine. He's back. It's great that he's back. Our great hero is back. Where's the promised beauty? Why didn't he bring her with him? Could it be that he's hiding a mistress in his house? Let's start the banquet. Tonight is a joyous occasion. We won't go home until we're drunk. Great hero. Ning Fan could not help but laugh. How did a devil lord like him suddenly become a hero? If he had a choice, he would rather be a villain, an ambitious and ruthless person, or even a great villain. He was used to being feared by others. On the contrary, he was not used to being admired and respected by others. Even if most of the admiration and respect came from the bottom of their hearts, he was still not used to it. When he became the divine sovereign of the Rain World in the past, even though the cultivators of the Rain World obeyed his every order, they were only afraid of his strength. Today, however, it was different. Very different. He was no longer the young man who took revenge when he first entered the path of cultivation in the past. He was becoming more and more like a Purple Dipper immortal cultivator. Senior Xiang said that the entire Eastern Sky will wear white clothes for 3 months after 10 days for the cultivators who died in the battle in the Realm River. During this period, we are not allowed to drink alcohol for 3 months. However, Senior Xiang also said that tonight is not within the range of the